field is heated and energetic and ready to go for victory here.
So we welcome our first time ever video stream audience from all over the world, wherever you are in the United States. Welcome to the World Figure 8 Championship here in Indianapolis. You'll catch it all flag to flag here, Scott.
Yeah, many of you folks that are race fans around the world may have never seen figure 8 racing. Tonight you're going to see the greatest figure 8 race on the planet, the best drivers, 3 hours in total distance. These guys will have to survive the crossover almost 1,000 times to survive this main event.
Somebody told me earlier, they said, Don, you got to survive the first 25 laps to ever win this race. I think you got to survive the first 25 seconds because we've seen it so many times. Guys, night's done here almost with lap 1.
That's right. For 36 years, we've run this race. It used to be purely an endurance race, and now that's just in title alone. These guys will sprint the entire 180-minute distance of the main event.
They get ready to come to green. Mark Tunney, Gary Bedell looking for the green flag. Indianapolis, are you ready? Somebody scream as they'll go one more lap here. We've got a good seat tonight, Scott, up here in the scoring booth. Our longtime race steward, Dennis Love, so we're right with race control. We'll see it all, and that means they're coming close to the green flag.
That's right, everyone. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this crossover chaos for 180 minutes World Figure 8 Championship starting momentarily.
Mark Tunney, Bruce. Tunney is his father looking on to see if his son can win his first ever. Somebody make some noise. We're ready to go green. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. Well, Scott, Mark Tunney right from the point is taken off. He's got Mark Harmon now has moved to second around Gary Bedell, as we already see as usual. The heavy crossover action, 3 or 4 cars piling up already. It's part of the race.
That's right. Fans that you've seen in figure 8 racing, it might take half the race before it starts to get crazy. This one right here goes crazy right out of the gate, and we have almost 20 alternates waiting to get onto the track at any moment now as well. So the field will get bigger and crazier as the race goes on, Don.
Sure it is. Harmon, Bedell, Doug Gregg as we go through back. Ben Tunney right there in 6. As again, they're splattering, they're scattering early on, trying to stay out of trouble, not to throw their race away. Mark Tunney knows it. Look at him, already in crossover traffic. Easily can throw it away here.
That's one of the hardest things these guys have to deal with each year. You got all the best from around the country here, a lot of them not being able to race with each other on a week-to-week basis. So this is a feeling out process here early on in the World Championship.
Look at them scatter back through the pack. It's thin out time is what it's called here early. Staying alive here as Mark Tunney continues to lead Harmon. That's Mark Harmon as 3 Harmons here tonight. Chris, look, there's this trouble in the crossover already. No need to get really excited this early on. It's trying to stay out of trouble, and Mark Tunney brings the whole field with him, and he's got Gary Bedell saying, oh, well, Harmon says, I'll take the lead early here. So Mark Tunney not in any hurry to defend his position as Harmon takes off.
Yeah, we got a Mark and Mark show here up front early on. Mark Harmon's just taking the lead from Mark Tunney right there, but the crossover is going to get crazy here once again, so these guys are going to have to watch out. As you saw them split a few minutes ago, Roger Maynor, who's joined us here from Bayshore, New York, a grand champion from the Northeast.
Yeah, they out-of-towners tend to be a little bit more aggressive, tend to grind and rub the paint a little bit more, and then you got the finesse drivers, Bedell, Mark Tunney, Harmon. There are 3 of them. Doug Gregg, look, Ben Tunney on the move here. Ben said that he did not want to try to be as aggressive as he was last year when he threw it all away after being out front, but a pretty good pace, Scott, early.
Yeah, these guys are really on the gas trying to tiptoe through that crossover. At the same time, keep up the hot pace as Mark and Mark make it through the crossover once again, with Bedell trying to keep up with the pace.
Yeah, it's thick, but it's organized chaos for the time being as these guys are trying to see who's going to make the first crack up, and it's coming. There's no doubt about it. Part of the race, part of the tradition. But these guys pretty smooth right now as they're chasing car 35, Mark Tunney. It's hard to keep your eyes on the leader here early with 28 cars, and as you mentioned, Scott, over 20 guys ready to get in the fray here when someone goes out. As the 22 has had some problems on and off there, and he's restarted. So fairly good pace here, and everybody out of trouble could change in a second. but Mark Carmen's going to continue to say, hey, follow me for what? There's Doug Gregg down on the bottom of the racetrack. Doug is very, very careful early on here throughout the years.
Yeah, that's his style right there, tiptoeing around as we see Rod Proctor have to move side to side to let Mark Tunney go through right there. You mentioned the alternates coming on here. It's the only race in the world that gets bigger as the first hour goes on instead of smaller like most do as we add those alternates. So the action revs up more and more intense as it goes on in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, Mark Harmon's starting to look at him. He's on a quick pace right now, working the back of the field already. And 71, Frost is in the pits.
Yeah, you mentioned Mark Harmon. He's carving his way up through traffic there, coming down to complete another lap. He got Mark Tunney caught up in a little bit of traffic, and he's put about 8 or 10 car lengths on him right now. But Mark Harmon, the Louisville area driver, is in that heavy traffic, so at a moment's notice, he could get knocked off his pace as well.
Yeah, you got to really, really focus in here. Ben Tunney is on the move right there. Ben Tunney is in car 5, and now there's the first pile up over here off corner 4. And it looks like it's a couple of the out-of-towners together. And
yeah, Roger Maynor looks like the one there to the right that's kind of packed up against the car. That they look like they're backing up and going to get away. That was Chris Harmon that he was tangled up with right there, a New York driver and a Kentucky driver in an accident. You just don't see that very often.
Yeah, now a car in turn 1 is offline, and we'll see what happens here.
Is
the
that
green
Nick
continues.
Moore maybe?
That may be Nick Moore, you're right. And he is looking for some help, I think.
And the caution's out for that first incident there. We're approximately 5 minutes into this event right here, and this is our first caution flag, and they've piled up to the stalled car right there. Let's get a look on that car. Who is that over there?
Well, there's about 8 of them, so there's not one.
Yeah, it looks like a whole heat race of cars there piled into one. What we've talked about in the past is one small mistake could turn into disaster for several drivers.
Look, and Nick Moore's mad already as he waves at somebody. Waves at the flagman is who he's waving at.
He may be inviting him over to the next gathering at his house there, or just saying hello there as Nick head back towards his car.
We're underway in Indianapolis, the World Figure 8 Championship. Mark Harmon continues to lead. Don Walker back with Scott Nye here, and we're under caution. Nick Moore was into the wall. How hard, we don't know, but it set off a pile of cars who looks like 2 are still behind Moore as the field cycles in, and Mark Harmon has been continuing to lead here with Mark Tunney in tow. So, Scotty, Nick Moore, amazing all these years when these guys get in these corners, you think for sure they see him, and as sure as you say it, we got 2 or 3 in them.
Yeah, this not being a standard style race of 25 laps or let's say 50 laps, it's got some endurance racing rules. So when he got tangled up there in the corner, you try to give him a moment there to get backed up and get going. Nick tried to move the car a little bit, and those guys coming in there racing 2 and 3 wide just were concentrating on the side-by-side racing and didn't see Moore's 42 car right there and then piled in there. So these guys are being sent around inside the marker there to avoid the accident while those guys are cleaning it up there from the towing crew. This is the first chance the guys have had to kind of take a deep breath and kind of see how their race car's doing in their mind, and kind of look around at the cars that are in the pack with them and judge their pace so far against the competition.
And it avoids the all-out hell frenzy pace that we've seen here sometimes throughout the year. A little bit easier on the equipment, so we'll clean up the 2 or 3 cars. Again, Mark Harmon continues to lead here early in Indianapolis, the World Figure 8 Championship.
It's really unprecedented what we did together with GM, Ford, Chrysler, and President Obama. Our new contracts will create 20,000 direct new jobs, and another 180,000 jobs will be created in suppliers, small businesses, and many other jobs that depend on municipal and state taxes. When you drive a world-class quality car made by UAW members and the domestic automakers, you're helping to keep American jobs right here where they're needed the most.
Don Walker and Scott Nye here with along Kevin O'Neill, the World Figure 8 Network here on Speedrome.com. Nick Moore's out early tonight, car 42 in the first turn, and they trying to clean up now a couple other cars. Can we been able to determine who else is involved?
I was getting a look on that a few minutes ago, trying to find out which cars over there involved. We can only see the back end from this view right there, but like you said, they would come in too wide there and got stacked up. Looks like it could be the 2 car is one of those involved.
Is that Austin Tunney?
Yeah, being dragged off there, the 2T of Austin Tunney. Some more bad luck for Austin in this race. Last year, he was in some sort of an incident in the first handful of minutes there. Some bad luck at the crossover, so that again happens for the young gun there, Austin Tunney.
Hard to imagine when these cars get in these corners that these guys, they don't want to back off even under caution. And
the other one there
is
seems
that
to
Corey
be
Turner?
Yeah, Corey Turner, the NWO Figure 8 champion from this year. He got boxed in right there when they come in 2 abreast and tore the side of his car up and had a flat tire, but it looks like a lot of cosmetic stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if here in just a couple of minutes he'll be rejoining the race with a fresh tire there.
So Corey Turner's off. Austin Tunney's on the hook. So Turner has his crew, and he could be back, but Nick Moore's on the hook as well. As
yeah, I think also Ricky the Kid Dietz was involved in that down there too, Don. So a couple of competitors that drove in the Washington and Idaho area this year in a little tangle there, but I'm not sure how bad enough Dietz's car is. But we got a good look at Corey's, and it wasn't too bad. Austin, they're heading off the track. Looks like from this side in one piece, but we don't know what the damage is there on the driver's side.
Austin Tunney on the hook, so he will never win tonight here for sure as the field continues to cycle. So Scott, Mark Harmon is taking the lead here over Mark Tunney, a pair of marks up front, and then there is Bedell. We know he likes to lay back and race clean.
Yeah, these 2 guys on the front row right now are prime competitors from the United States Figure 8 Championship that we had back in May. Mark Harmon from Louisville, Kentucky there, he was the pole sitter for that United States Figure 8 Championship, and Mark Tunney there in the 17T was the one that took the victory there and home the $5,000.
Okay, here we have our running order. So they're showing Harmon and now Mark Tunney right alongside of him. So Bedell is there. Bentunney has moved up a little bit. And then R.J. Norton Jr. beginning to climb back towards the top. R.J. started, sixth, and now he fell back a little bit scrambling around, but he'll be ready to move to the front as well as nearing 15 minutes into the race here. Nick Moore's car, we're trying to get off the racetrack.
Yeah, apparently we're having a little trouble there with Dietz as we get the final car hauled out of there. You know, there was 3 stuffed in there. And as you mentioned, those top runners there in the running order, they're going to be mixed in with those lap cars here on this restart. So for the first time tonight, we're going to go green with a mix of front lead lap cars and lap down cars trying to get their lap back. So should be interesting here when we go green here momentarily.
All right, let's take a break. You're at Indianapolis, the home of the World Figure 8 Championship, and Mark Harmon continues to lead. All right, Scott, Don Walker back with Scott Nye here. Scotty, we're nearing 20 minutes into the race. The pace truck lights are out. That's symbolic, are ready to go green. Mark Tunney, we know, is fast. He's on the pole. Mark Harmon, we know, can last. There's Bedell. He's racy. Doug Gregg sits right where he wants. And we're a second away from Bedlam again.
Yeah, these guys have been calm for a few minutes, but now they're ready to step on the gas and go one more time here in Indianapolis.
R.J. Norton Jr. is 6th. He's one behind Doug Gregg. There goes Mark Tunney now. He says, I'll get back on the gas. So Mark Tunney and Mark Harmon, a pair of marks out there with Gary Bedell, Ben Tunney, Doug Gregg, and Norton Jr. That's the top 5.
Definitely a big row of heavy hitters right there. They were anxious to get back to action after that extended caution period right there. Those guys got a chance to sync up and see what they had, and now they're standing on the gas, and here comes that crossover traffic one more time.
Leonard Basham is unofficially 10th tonight. Leonard in his farewell run, always a good show here, and he's in the top 10. So Mark Tunney leads Mark Harmon. And let's follow him around here as 33 laps complete. That's a little bit lower, obviously, with the prolonged yellow, Scott.
Yeah, a lot of times, though, even though we have a slow pace going on right now, this being the endurance race, as it clears out later on, they'll have extended green flag runs and pick up the pace, and it'd be amazing how many laps they'll put up in the long run as we see Tunney avoid disaster at the crossover.
Mark Harmon's in no big hurry to take a chance early, though. He could have easily darted to the lead there, did not want to get hit. Gary Bedell through the eye of the storm there. That's the closest call I've seen, and Gary Bedell may have used up his first pass there of being a lucky cat right there as he dodged a bullet. But that's what it's all about here over the years. This is a near-miss business.
That's right, and you've seen Gary Bedell use that crossover traffic to mastery right there. Those 2 marks got out to a nice lead on him, but he saw that they were in trouble at the crossover. They had to hesitate momentarily, and Bedell's now run under the back bumper of the Mark and Mark show.
Yeah. Let's find Ben Tunney. He's right off turn 4. Ben's about, 50 yards back. He's right on cue as he flashes through in front of us. So Ben Tunney is running a little bit slower pace this time, and he told us that earlier in the day that he wasn't going to jackrabbit tonight deliberately. And as it gets heavy and heavy again, and again, we get through that, and the drivers that take that, again, there's a turn, a spin up in turn 2. We get the glasses on him. That's Hargraves, and he's got a problem.
That's a right rear flat for Hargraves as he got turned around there coming off 2. He's going to go pit side. They'll be able to put a tire on that and be right back out and join the fray.
Good eyesight as Hargraves got the flat, was headed right to the pit lane. And for World Figure 8 followers, you can head to the pit lane here, and then you can come back out. There's a line all night long getting back into the race over in the on-track gate. So these guys, whether they need tires, fenders, or fuel, they head to the pit lane where their crew members and are right there to try to get them back into the event. Now, it's thick again, and we're still looking for the first big melee. Might you have it? And Mark Tunney has done a pretty good job of avoiding it as it's rush hour traffic here again early. But look at the discipline both Marks have. Mark Tunney. Oh, look out, Gary Bedell. That's a scratch too, Scott.
Yeah, Gary's going to look for 9 lives here tonight as he started to charge through. But Mike Riddle Jr., a decorated racer here in figure 8 racing, but making his first ever World Figure 8 start, sent Gary Bedell towards the front stretch wall, but Gary avoided it. Still has 7 lives left on his 9.
Yeah, Ben Tunney used up one of his. Maybe we should say you have 9 lives out here. Sure as you say that, you might not. So Doug Gregg, we know, look at him. He's almost like, hey, go ahead. He'll come to a complete stop before he throws it away, and takes a lot of discipline to do that.
Yeah, that's right, because Doug is having the leader starting to bear down on him, wanting to put him a lap down. He's maybe 1 turn ahead of leader Mark Tunney. So Doug's still trying to delicately pace himself through the field, but he's got to be very, very careful about losing those laps early on because that could come into play later in the serial.
R.J. Norton Jr. is just went down a lap. So Jesse Tunney's got a problem. So 2 of the Tunneys with problems tonight. Austin, now Jesse.
Yeah, last year's pole sitter, Jesse Tunney, and the current World Figure 8 Tour point leader, and this is the main event here in the World Figure 8 Tour Series, so that's going to hurt him in the standings.
Yeah, there's Scott, and then there's a kind of a surf over there off 2.
Yeah, one small incident sends Calvin Crane for a spin, and 20 cars have to change their path.
And 24 to the pit lane.
Looks like Aguilar's got some front end damage there on the 24. He must have got tangled up with Lexington, Kentucky's Calvin Crane.
Sweet Manny is off. So we've seen some guys with problems, but they've been minor compared to what they can be so far.
And that's the cool thing about this race. You'll see these guys head off and change a tire and do whatever here early on, and you'll think, uh-oh, they're out of this race, and all of a sudden at the end they've piled up enough laps to finish up there in the top 5.
Nigel Peters is off over there, one of the super stock entries. Look like Nige might have a problem.
Somebody else having some trouble there in the crossover is Charlie Hargraves. We saw him go off for that flat tire, and he came back on, wasn't out very long, and he was stuck at the intersection as the caution waves once again.
And the caution comes out. Mark Tunney leading here, 2 hour and 35-minute mark. He's your leader at the World Figure 8 Championship in Indianapolis.
Want the most efficient heating and cooling system on the market and the most reliable and professional contractors to install it? Then you need a Bryant's Heating and Cooling factory authorized dealer on your side. Their extensively trained technicians are held to rigorous Bryant factory standards and will give you their 100% satisfaction guarantee in writing.
All right,
now,
the lights are out of the truck. Don Walker back.
That's the Bryant
the
factory
Indianapolis
authorized
Speedrome,
dealer
36
difference.
running.
To see
It's
all
been
of
a
their
pair of
great
marks
products
early.
and find a dealer
Harmon
near you,
from
visit
Kentucky.
Bryant.com.
Tunney from
Bryant's
Indianapolis.
Heating and Cooling is the proud naming
Gary
rights
Bedell
sponsor
has
of the
been solid.
Indianapolis Speedrome.
He's still there. Back on the throttle. Well, one thing's for certain. Mark Tunney's got the horsepower and the speed here. If that means anything in the end of 3 hours, we can see him pull away whenever he wants.
That's right. Mark jumped on the gas, got the best of Mark Harmon there on the start as they're already reaching the tail of the traffic there just after 1 lap of this resumption of the World Figure 8 Championship. Several alternates have joined the fray here in the last few minutes. I just saw Richard Doodle Dickens here. He's a rookie and an alternate here tonight. Got a nice car here. Nice patient guy going to look to put up some laps here tonight. Excited. Big
there
crash.
it goes.
That's Chris Harmon and Sean Cullen there colliding at the crossover. Chris Harmon, the decorated champion from the Speedrome Speedway, and a super stock quick one there, Sean Cullen in the number 2. Big hit.
Man, right in front of you. And look at Harmon. He's going to be able to limp it.
Yeah, that front end damage looks pretty serious there on Chris Harmon's car. Maybe not enough to knock him out of the vent, but he's going to have an extended period in the pits for his valuable crew to put together some suspension parts there for the 44.
I think that one's headed to the truck there, but you could see that one coming full blast.
And that's a classic crossover incident right there. 2 guys coming that way. There's some traffic, so their vision is slightly blocked. One guy gets on the gas, gets on the brake. You know, they try to make up their mind, and next thing you know, they end up here on the front stretch wall with thousands of dollars of parts damaged on their machines.
Well, we got our first crack up here at the World Figure 8 Championship in Indianapolis. Mark Tunney continues to lead. Lights are out of the truck, Scott. That's over the years means it's time to go back to racing here. And again, the theme hasn't changed early. Paramarks, Tunney, Harmon, Indianapolis, Louisville, Kentucky. Gary Biddell has been solid. Gary's had a couple of near misses we mentioned, but he'll take right where he is here.
Yeah, Gary's kind of flying under the radar behind those two marks there, looking for the lead.
And look at Doug Gregg. You never know where he's at right there, but Doug Gregg will take that position all day long until he gets in the final half hour. Look at Mark Tunney. We've talked about it. There he goes. Biddell says, don't go too far away from me.
And that was a more classic World Figure 8 type incident right there. It looked like a big hit in the crossover. They cleaned it up quickly, and we're back under green in just a handful of caution laps right there. Not much time to pause here, most of the cautions here at the World Championship.
And Corey Turner is back out there, so Corey went to the pits. He's back out. He's down multiples.
Yeah, the Gunderson crew got him back out in a decent amount of time, so he's going to try to work that strategy and bring it back up, maybe not having to pit till the later stages of the event.
Mark Tunney. Well, look at Gary Biddell get a little racy.
Yeah, Gary's in that catbird seat right there, letting them two guys break the traffic, and, you know, he's kind of hoping maybe they get tangled up into something, and he could just lay right there in the weeds and pick up the pieces when they get tangled in traffic.
Yeah, Leonard Basham is 7th now, unofficially. Leonard Basham goes to 7th. Car 9.
Leonard's last call. He's looking to put it in victory lane here a final time. Leonard's raced this race only one man has raced it more times than him, and that's Bill Tunney Jr. Leonard in his 30th start here this weekend.
Yeah. So we back away here for a little bit and kind of watch the pace. Doug Gregg racing there with Norton, and that's for position. R.J. Norton.
There we have a lead change there at the line, Don. Mark Tunney got bottled up there behind Basham as they were trying to put him a lap down. Harmon snuck across the line there for first, but Tunney has got back around him for the lead as all three leaders there are bumper to bumper.
Yeah, I think Mark Tunney's got the mindset now that he wants to stay out in the lead, even though it can change in a hurry with lap traffic. And you see Mark now constantly working traffic, and Harmon's tucked right in between him right there. Calvin Crane's in that mix, but obviously not on the lead serial.
Yeah, Calvin was in that tangle up a little while ago, but he's definitely showing he has the pace to run with these guys as finally Mark Tunney dispatches Leonard Basham there, puts him one down. Mark Harmon was trying to take advantage of that, but Tunney charged through to put Basham a lap down and now gains 3 car lengths.
Yep. So Mark Tunney continuing to ride. You're joining us a little late. Bruce Tunney, the 3-time World Figure 8 champion, and father of Mark Tunney, not a go this year. So Bruce in control of Mark's crew, and a interested spectator over in Team Tunney of the 17. And Mark would be gunning to give his dad his first one, and their 4th combined. And it's a good ride so far as we near a half hour.
That's right. Bruce has won this World Championship 3-hour endurance race on 3 occasions, but what many don't know is Bruce is one of the smarter setup men in the pit area, and he's got Mark tuned up right here. Mark trying to put a heavy pace on and pull away from the pack, but Mark Harmon and Gary Biddell are trying not to let him get away.
Yeah, Mark Harmon is not going anywhere early on in this race, and Gary Biddell just runs in their draft. Let's go back through the field. Doug Gregg is 5th behind Ben Tunney, who's 4th as they zigzag some more. Basham is 7th. Eddie Rogers is scored down in 8th. He's down a lap. Riddle is 9th, down a lap. Corey Harmon down a lap. Calvin Crane is 12. Right there as we go down through the top 10 or 11.
Got a good mix there. Got a lot of world champions, some track champions, and some new customers like Mike Riddle, who's won big races across the board. But this year it's his first time in this chaos of the World Figure 8 Championship.
Yeah, Ben Tunney is we watching come through. I'm not sure whether Ben is happy with his handling of his car or whether that's just his pace tonight. He mentioned he didn't want to run hard early, and it reflects that, though it's not Ben's nature to deliberately lay back in any race.
That's what I was just getting ready to mention, Don. That's a great point. Ben did mention in the pre-race interviews that he was trying to pace it a little bit, but normally, as you mentioned, he charges 110% and tries to strangle the field. But he's now playing catch-up as he meets cousin Mark at the crossover.
Yeah, he's down a half a lap or so, which is obviously nothing at this point in the race. So,
oh,
look out.
Big hit right there. Eddie Rogers clobbers the leader.
Oh.
Now the leader's taken out. Oh, several
The
cars.
big one, there it is, Scott. Just
There it
as we
is.
were saying, there's 9 or 10 or 11 cars. Gary Bedell's involved. Rogers is involved. Norton gets through. R.J. Norton gets through. There's Nick Moore. There's
Wow.
RJ3.
Several top competitors gained in that. The first accident happened when Mark Tunney and Eddie Rogers made some contact at the crossover. Not serious damage on Mark Tunney's car, but enough to mangle.
Mark Tunney's to the pit area.
Yeah, it busted a tie rod there on the right front of Mark's car, and that small incident caused this chain reaction 12-car melee at the crossover that also involved the 11 car of Gary Bedell.
And Gary Bedell has been able to slither away. And so Gary Bedell would be scored the leader. Here he is, Scott.
Yeah, Bedell, look at that mangled front end there on Bedell's car. His bumper is almost over the top of his radiator, so even though Bedell got away from that wreck and assumed the lead, he's got some serious damage up there that could cost him later on in the event. But what that did is it put Ben Tunney right in the mix.
It sure did. You know, Ben Tunney talking about laying back, and you talk about a slower pace, a controlled race, and all of a sudden, 8, 9, 10, 11 cars, boom, bang, bash, crash, out. We'll check on Mark Tunney when we come back. Gary Bedell is your leader at the World Figure 8 Championship in Indianapolis. Don Walker, Scott Nye back after a big crash here at the Indianapolis Speedrome. Mark Tunney's been involved in it. Mark Harmon has been involved in it. Nick Moore was involved in it. Chris Green was involved in it. Gary Bedell was involved in it but got through it. He's got a bumper that's pointing 12 o'clock high now, and we'll watch that. What it did do for the beneficiaries is Ben Tunney is zoomed all the way up to the front with Bedell now, and we'll look and see if Mark Tunney or Mark Harmon can get back out. Mark Harmon left on the hook.
Yeah, this red flag is beneficial for those guys. Mark Tunney got to the pit area before the red came out, so they're back there getting that car repaired with the clock stopped, so that's big for him. He's going to be over there waiting at the pit gate probably pretty soon to join the field, so he probably lost the minimum amount of time there as he could, probably a handful of laps as we went on. And just one small incident turned into that big one as we saw Eddie Rogers and Mark Tunney kind of check up at the crossover and bang wheels, and the next thing you know, half the field seemed like it poured in there, Don.
That was a big crack up there. Chain reaction 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, one of the biggest ever here in years is what it was. And
yeah, and it changed things for a lot of the guys there trying to catch up, as we talked about with Ben Tunney.
The only beneficial thing right now is if Mark Tunney or Mark Harmon can get any repairs made. We're sitting under red, so if those cars are repairable within a reasonable amount of time, maybe their nights aren't over. Unbelievable. The leaders cruising, watching their P's and Q's, and bam, it happens here.
That's all it takes is just a momentary spot of judgment by one or two guys, and next thing you know, 8 or 10 or 12 are involved right there. And we talked about even a little bit of good luck there for Bedell because he got away and he's still running. But then again, we talked about the front end. That radiator is not as protected as it was before. So now Gary's going to have to be careful with that front end because the radiator is a weak link here in these figure 8 machines.
Yeah. RJ R.J. Norton Jr. escaped that as well. As my eyes were trained on him, he was able to get through it. Almost
he
like
was back a ways too.
Yeah, and Doug Gregg is right where he wants to be. Not a scratch on his car, it doesn't look like.
And you know what's ironic about those guys you just mentioned right there, Don? Those are the last 3 World Figure 8 champions. Gregg, Norton, and Ben Tunney have won the last 3 of these races, so they know what it takes to get to the front here, and it looks like this accident's benefited all 3 of those competitors.
Well, we're in Indianapolis, but the big one has happened here. The Talladega big one of the World Figure 8 Championship has taken place here. We'll be back. Don Walker, Scott Nye, World Figure 8 Championship number 36 here, 2012, September 8th at the Indianapolis Speedrome. Well, if you're just joining, you just missed the big accident here. Not 2, 4, 6, 8, at least 10 to 12, Scott, for sure, including the leaders, Mark Tunney and Mark Harmon.
Yeah, that was definitely a vehicular booby trap right there. The leaves were over the hole, and the first car fell in, and they all piled in after it. They all got caught up in that mess after the small incident between Mark Tunney, your leader, and Eddie Rogers, who was running solid there inside the top 10 at the time. So big movement for both those guys as we wait to see what comes on.
Well, the leader's Ben Tunney now in car 5. Gary Bedell survived that. We'll see, though, how his radiator was running after. We know it worked well because it's bent straight up. And then car 49 is scored in 3rd. Then Doug Gregg would be 4th. R.J. Norton Jr. rounds out our top 5. Jeff Shackelford scored 8th. He's down a lap as we continue to sort out through this big wreck in Indianapolis at the Speedrome. Don Walker, Scott Nye, Kevin O'Neill back at the World Figure 8 Network here in Indianapolis. We're under red here for the big crack-up that we had on lap 72 here in Indianapolis. It took out our leaders. It took out Mark Harmon. It took out Mark Tunney. And it took out a list of 8 or 9 that we'll update here momentarily. It took out Nick Moore. It took out Chris Green, Scott. And now we're a moment away from resuming the race here as Green went off along with Nick Moore. So one thing we'll keep our eyes on is if either Mark Harmon or Tunney, who were leading the majority of this race, every lap of it, to be specific, come back out.
Yeah, right now as we stand here under this red flag condition, there's 5 cars currently on the lead lap here, 72 complete. Ben Tunney is the leader who stormed from the disappointment there when them guys got at the crack up and went right past into first. Bedell holds down second with that damaged front end. And the surprise runner here so far after that is Mike Riddle Jr., who we've talked about a couple of times. He's a champion from some other series around the Midwest, but first time in this kind of event, and he's already stormed up to 3rd. And then 4th place on the lead lap there is Doug Gregg, the defending champion, looking for his 3rd overall. And 5th is R.J. Norton Jr., still on the lead lap. So those 5 guys right now wanting to shoot it out as soon as we see the green resume here in the World Figure 8 Championships presented by Pure Power Technologies and UAW. It is the greatest figure 8 race on the planet, Don.
Well, it's home of the greatest wrecks on the planet. I know that. We just seen one here, and we're cleaned up and ready to start the cars. You get out of line here, you pay the price, you go back to the end of the line here. So we keep our glasses on to see if the Marks, Tunney and Harmon, will return here.
Yeah, there's several cars gridded over there at the pit gate ready. When the green flag comes out, they can jump on the tail of this field. We just haven't got a good look at which ones they are, but there's several guys just raring and ready to go and jump back on this field after that crossover Venus flytrap there sucked in about a dozen cars.
Like a vacuum. All right, we'll be ready to resume green when we come back. Mark Tunney and Mark Harmon, will they be back? Ben Tunney's your leader. Well, Scott, we're ready to resume here on lap 72 here in Indianapolis. The big crack-up has taken place here. It got Mark Harmon, it got Mark Tunney, and it got about 8 other guys.
Yeah, those leaders got vacuumed up in that wreck right there when Mark Tunney got tangled up with Rogers, and all of a sudden several of the top 10 runners got eclipsed in that crossover wreck right now as we're getting ready to get back underway. in Indianapolis.
It went all calm for so many laps, and then all of a sudden, bam, 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 and we'll look and see if Mark Tunney comes back out with Harmon. If not, Ben Tunney, who we thought was off pace a little bit, right to the front.
Yeah, and we see a drama turn right there as I look over his shoulder. Ben Tunney couldn't get his car restarted, and they've pushed him in the pit area. So let's get back to the action and see how it's turned out for Ben Tunney.
If the unknowns are part of this race, then the unknowns are part of the race. They
Yeah,
happen.
definitely been an intriguing first hour so far in this event.
Let's get back to it. Well, Ben Tunney, we don't know what happened to him, but he's off.
Yeah, Ben maybe had a situation where when they were waiting there under the red, couldn't get his car refired, so he's been pushed in the pits. But we'll see if he rejoins here shortly as the greens come out to chaos here at the crossover.
And Bedell's able to take off, and let's keep our eyes for a Mark Tunney or Mark Harmon car. I don't see it initially. They're not there, Scott.
Well, and lump into that bunch Ben Tunney, who was the leader when we went red, had to go pit side to get his car refired, and now he's going one lap down there. He's going to join Mark and Mark as one's losing some laps here in this restart.
We don't know exactly happened, or he may have been able to get a little extra fuel or whatever that might help him a little later. Let's keep our eyes on him.
Yeah, he's just now gotten back into the fray, but he's pulled out at a bad time when the crossover's jammed up, so he's going to lose a second lap to Bedell as Bedell screams by back into the lead with that damaged front end.
Yeah, we know one thing. Gary Bedell has a very good bumper as well as a very fast car tonight, because look at it. Now there's a car 16 is down here.
It's a wild thing turned around.
That's David Lee Bird, and I wouldn't want to be facing that position here. That's like being on the interstate the wrong way.
That's right. He was sitting there, and there was about 25 cars screaming at him there at full speed.
He's screaming the tires. Look at him. He's hung up. And
Bedell, speaking of hung up, had to turn left, turn right, and get himself through the crossover. Lost about, I don't know, 7 or 8 car lengths distance right there, but he still retains the lead as this situation has elevated Riddle up to second place.
Yeah. The Riddler up to second place after lap number 75,
well,
76.
Mike in his first World Figure 8 Championship has a plan he's trying to execute. I was talking to him the other day, and first thing he said was he'd like to qualify somewhere between 8th and 12th, and sure enough, tonight he qualified 10th right there at bullseye in the middle, and then he wanted to keep his nose clean for a while, and he's done that, and now he's moved his way into the second position, just a couple of rows behind Bedell here as the restart lineup forms up.
Well, David Lee Bird is facing the wrong way. Several do that in this race. DLB, as we call him here, is trying to get restarted or get a push. I don't know. But Gary Bedell, for now, hasn't used all 9 lives. He's our leader, and we'll be back in a moment. All right. We're back under another caution here. David Lee Bird brought it out in car 16.
Yeah, another situation where these guys need to get settled in, and Bedell there leading the way with that damaged front end has got an anxious Austin Tunney and the 5 of Ben Tunney right behind him trying to get some of those laps back. And there's that sneaky number 49 there of Mike Riddle Jr., the Riddler. He's crept up to win within 1 car length of Bedell right there. So Riddle looked for a solid finish tonight. Heck, here in just a moment, he may be leading the race. I'm sure he'd be ecstatic to know that if you could tell him that 40 minutes into the event.
Who would ever think the Riddler would come in here and get
Vegas
to the front?
odds were pretty high on Riddle here headed in tonight, and he may just pay off for someone tonight.
Well, Gary Bedell is no Riddle. Watch him go. As Gary gets back on it. Gary's a finesse driver, rough and tough, isn't his style, so he's having to wing it. He's got Ben Tunney now trying to get a lap back, Scott.
Well, and you know what's probably happened now, Don. You know, Ben was playing that patient game till he caught that issue with his mechanical woes, having to go to the pits. Now we're probably going to see the old Ben Tunney. Ben's going to stand on the gas right now and try to make those 2 laps up, maybe pressure Bedell into some sort of bad situation that gets him caught up as Ben tries to shoot around to get a lap back.
Well, he did it. You knew that was going to happen. That's not a pass for position, so Gary Bedell says you can have that fight. Look at Doug Gregg start to inch back up, Scott. He's on the move right there behind the Let's get the glasses. Is that the 35? Is that Harmon back out?
Yeah, Harmon's back out into the mix several laps off the fray. But once again, as we mentioned earlier, he's going to try to make up what he can as this race goes on. It might play his way later on, but the guy we got to watch now who's made up one of them is the son of the man with no fear, Ben Tunney.
Yeah, and look again, here comes all the chaos and bedlam back at the crossover here. Brookville and Kitley. X marks the spot. It's a big X too, Scott.
That's right. The most craziest intersection in all of Indianapolis is right here in the middle of the racetrack at the Indianapolis Speedrome, and everyone's trying to go through with no stoplights, no speed limit signs.
Yeah, so Gary Bedell continues. Riddle, they've moved Riddle up to second now, Scott. So the Riddler is kind of the dark horse story here. Look at him go.
Yeah, Mike's had that car here for most of the year, and they've ran several events. But I tell you what, he's been focused on the World Championship the last month, putting plenty of testing dates in the books, trying to get ready for this big $20,000 to win main event.
Yeah, he is. So Ben Tunney's pedaling hard now. He's down a lap or two. We'll have to double-check officially. Look at him. Doug Gregg uses all the racetrack. People would say, where are you going, Doug? He's looking for clean air for sure.
Yeah, he sees his name up there in the third hole in the leaderboard, and Greg's going to try to keep that patient style rolling and hope the race comes right back into his lap like it has in the past by playing that style.
R.J. Norton Jr. has not had a good afternoon so far, but he's right there shown in fifth, so we haven't talked much about him. He's a former winner. And we watch him go around the racetrack here a couple times. And
I think it's a situation where RJ's been down the serial a little bit, even though he's running in the top five, just trying to get his rhythm with the rest of the field.
RJ Norton goes to third spot as we're talking about him. Yeah, so
Doug had to hesitate there a little bit as the majority of the field is in one huge pack rolling around as the front is trying to bite the tail off the field here as it's going through the crossover. Norton moved to third with that heavy traffic.
Now look at him. So a couple of world figure eight winners right there. Oh, look out. There goes Shackelford with Calvin Crane for a spin on the carousel.
Yeah, those two right there tried to avoid each other, and they just barely touched, but it looked like the front bumper of the C4 of Crane got interlocked with Shackelford's their rub rail, and now they've backed away, and both look like they're going to resume here at the World Figure Eight Championship. Just a minor crack up.
Yeah, Shaq gets away, so a minimized spin right there for Shackelford.
Yeah, some track position loss for the two guys right there, but they're going to try to get back on rhythm as Shackelford has to sashay at the crossover one time to get back moving.
So R.J. Norton Jr., I think that he wasn't going well that early, and he's already now beginning to move in on the Riddler for second.
That's right. He's closed up to the back bumper of the orange number 49 machine as they try to sort through a heavy phalanx of traffic right there. He moves in behind Riddle, trying to move into second as Bedell tries to power himself through the field here about 10 car lengths ahead of that second-place battle.
These guys out front here, and that's the tradition of this race. They come barreling through corner after corner, and it's like, get out of the way, or we'll push you out of the way. There's no a lot of these guys don't know what it is to veer off or to dart off. It's like pushing you through a bridge in New York across the river. They'll push you out of the way.
That's right, and you have a lot of big driver egos here, Don, because some of these guys are the big fish at their home track, and now they've rolled in here, and this lake is stocked full of top competitors right here going for victory. As we see, Norton has moved around Riddle there in the heavy traffic. Now RJ up to second place, the 2010 world champion.
R.J. Norton Jr. to second. So R.J. Norton Jr. is right where he wants to be. Don't make any bones about that. He'll take second. So we're approaching the 2 hour and 14-minute mark here in Indianapolis.
That's right. Now, I don't have a quick count right here, but it looks like, Don, there's more cars on the track than there were when we started this thing.
I was thinking the same thing.
The chaos is just climbing to a higher level.
Like they threw out another big batch of fish, and this lake is full.
That's right. Drop your line into the water, see what you could pull out here. That red flag may have given a lot of these guys a chance to get their cars repaired and get back into the mix.
Yeah, it's just like we dropped the green here. So let's find Bedell. It's tough. Look for 2 1s. That's number 11 right there. And he's closing back on Ben Tunney again.
Yeah, Ben darted out in front of him to get one of those laps back, and he was going to try to run away from Bedell and try to move closer in the serial scoring, but the traffic came right to Ben. Ben got caught up into it, and now Bedell's back on his rear bumper.
Yeah, so we follow Gary Bedell around. There is Doug Gregg. As it's still heavy crossover traffic, but still somewhat organized for 28 cars on the racetrack.
Right, but what we've seen in the past, even though this is sort of a ballet between race cars going through that crossover, all it takes is one of them to stub their toe, and then you've seen what happens from that.
And we'll see it again here for sure. You just never know when the pin's going to get pulled on a grenade.
That's right. One guy makes a misstep. His car has a mechanical issue. A guy cuts a tire down. Next thing you know, a dozen cars go splashing into the trap right there at the crossover.
Yeah, so Gary Bedell is trying to put Ben Tunney down. He's not going to push the issue. Mark Harmon back out, but again, that's several laps down, that story there.
The guy I've been noticing the last few laps at the crossover is the C4 Crane, who got tangled up with Shackelford a few minutes ago. He's having a hard row to hoe at the crossover here the last dozen laps or so.
Yeah, Ben Tunney showing a little bit more impatience as it looks like he's turned it up a little bit there after.
Yeah, he got caught up a little bit behind the 1R of Jeff Roberts, and that gave Bedell a chance to get back around him and put that lap that Ben had gained right back into his pocket.
There they go. So Gary Bedell continues to lead. Lap 103, Scott, as we're coming up on the 2-hour, 12-minute mark here at the Speedrome.
Yeah, and even though we talked about some of that slower pace with the cautions and stuff earlier, we could easily jump back over 400 laps on this pace that these guys have climbed back to. So they're getting the speed back up. As long as they stay clear at the crossover, the laps will start piling up, and pretty soon we'll be talking about pit strategy here as we head towards the middle stages of the event.
Yeah, we've had some substantial green flag time as well as the too long delays for track delays, so it's kind of balanced off. This almost looks like a 25-lap race at times, and then all of a sudden reality sets in and calamity sets in.
Sure, you got 35 or 40 guys on the track, and all with different agendas at this time. Some leading the race, some just trying to stay clean, some just recently joining on as alternates.
Nigel Peters is back out in the super stock. Of course, Nigel, one of the best stock car drivers around the Midwest, trying to win the super stock event here tonight. He's had his shares of problems early, too.
Yeah, gotten through a few bumpy rides. The Kenny's 100 champion is looking to maintain. He finished runner-up in this super stock deal last year, finishing 10th overall in the World Championship in that stock car.
And Scott, the track thicker, Austin Tunney back out taking some laps.
Yeah, and as we talk about this, we have all 35 or so of these cars in one big chain, and right now the front of the chain is hitting the back of the chain, so somebody's going to have to give here in the next few laps.
Well, Gary Bedell doesn't want to give out any, I can tell you that. Nick Moore's back out there. These cars are like tanks.
Yeah, and that's right. We've seen Moore in two big predicaments so far today, you know, to where we thought, oh, that's it for Nick Moore today, but it seems like he just keeps coming and coming like the Energizer Bunny there, Moore in the 42.
Wow, he's been in a couple of big incidences back out. Find our leader. And it's not easy. There he is, Gary Bedell. R.J. Norton Jr. is closing now on Bedell, Scott.
That's right. They've both been in that heavy traffic, but it seems like R.J.'s catching the right hole at the right time. He's now only a couple of car lengths behind Bedell, looking to emerge in the lead. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago when Mark and Mark were leading that we were looking at R.J. almost going a lap down, Don, and now he's right up there in the fray.
And looks like Jeff A. Smith in a cloud of smoke. That's the wrong place to be, too.
Yeah, he's going to try to back that 35 machine out of the way right there.
Now
Looks like he's doing a great job of it.
That's, well, sure as you say that, he's back in gear.
Yeah, that's right. That was a good move and also a great survival move. I'm sure he was thinking, get this thing backed out of here now.
Well, Gary Bedell has not won a World Figure 8 Championship. R.J. Norton Jr. has, and look at him. Try to hold him off right there. Norton's like one car length now behind him. He's right on his bumper.
Yeah,
and
Norton's
Greg right there.
Norton's ready to rock. He's ready to eat off that back bumper of Bedell. Bedell with that messed up front bumper. I don't know if he knows how bad it is. He may be taking it easy in traffic, not being able to use that bumper as he could before with the damage.
Yeah, well, it hasn't slowed his car down at all, but R.J. Norton Jr.'s car has came in here. Look at him. Maybe even a little bit quicker than he wants, just 1 hour into the event, but it's in championship form now.
Yeah, RJ may be at the point where he finally saw his name on that leaderboard, and it really revved up his anticipation like, hey, I'm ready to go ahead and pounce and take the lead here in the World Championship. You know, RJ didn't get a chance to run last year, so he's actually back for the first time after winning it, so he'd like to add another victory here after years of trying, maybe going for 2.
And David Lee Bird is back out here, and watch him white knuckle it.
Yeah, he's getting short on those 9 lives as well, Don.
I think he's on 9 life number 11, Scott. DLB has been all over the racetrack tonight. I'm not sure the other guys really want him to see him any more lives.
Fans of Indianapolis racing know that DLB, he's a scrapper. He'll go all day long there in whatever he's driving.
These guys do not like to quit. Oh, look out. There's a hit. And there's 5 more in the crossover now. So wreck number 2, and let's Nick Moore again. Nick Moore has got a magnet on him, and it's drawing a lot of cars here.
Caution's out as we look towards the pit area, Don. That's some heavy damage there with Vanderhoof piled up against the wall. Looks like the rear end's almost ripped out of that car as the track crew's taking a look at him over near the pit gate.
Holy cow.
That's a deal, Don, where there was one small incident, as we mentioned before. Richard Doodle Dickens kind of stopped at the crossover right there, and while he was stopped, these other 6 or 8 guys tried to maneuver around him, and they all piled in, and guess what? Dickens' car pulled away without a scratch on it, and there was Nick Moore laying there for the 3rd time in another incident of not his making.
Oh, well, man, that's a big one, number 2, we'll call it tonight. Nick Moore's been in everything here tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, been a tough return here for Nick. Nick's run once already this season, had a little trouble, and now he's in this World Championship, and it seems like you mentioned earlier, he's the magnet.
Shackelford gets a break. He heads to the pit area. So the Shack is headed back to the pit area, and Gary Bedell, they'll pick him up as the leader. Lap 119, 2 hour and 6 minute mark here in Indianapolis. Gary Bedell leads the World Figure 8 Championship. Don Walker back with Scott Nye. Another break for another big wreck at the World Figure 8 Championship. Scott, number 6 on the hook.
It looks like we've got some pit strategy here picking up, Don. Just as we get back, they clear Vanderhoof's car away from the pit area, and there the leader, Bedell, shoots into the pit area. Some sort of strategy right there. Maybe Bedell's going to put some tires on. Maybe he's going to put some fuel on. He's got a good pit crew back there so he can see what's going on. That puts R.J. Norton in the lead for the first time today.
Yeah, look at the damage on Vanderhoof there. That was big-time crunch city there, so Jeremy's night is over. And Bedell, I would think, is definitely playing strategy early.
Well, what might hurt Bedell's strategy is, some tow trucks moving cars in and out of the pits from damage. He may get caught up in there before getting to his pit. Gary trying to use that strategy just right and catch the right caution to get his pit work done, because these guys cannot go the distance on fuel, and they definitely want to put some tires in while they're in the pits.
I like that strategy early. It's lap 124, so Bedell goes to the pit under yellow. He can take his time with the tires, fuel, whatever tweaks he wants.
Well, what else is going to be good? They'll get that tires and fuel, and also the crew will get their first close-up look to that front-end damage. Maybe they can diagnose a situation that may be coming a little later in the event. So they're going to take a look at that while he's in there, and he's so far just lost 1 lap, but that still puts him definitely right into play for the victory, as we've seen with all the craziness going on.
Sure it is. I'll take that risk early anytime in this race, and we'll watch for Bedell to come back. That was very much deliberately coordinated there. He was probably maybe going to take advantage of it late in the early part of the race, and he did.
Well, and what was almost sneaky right there is with Vanderhoof's car blocking the gate. It didn't look like anybody was going to pit and make that strategy move. But as soon as they moved that 6 car just enough for the gate to open, the 11 car of Bedell shot right in there and picked up those tires and some gas.
Yeah. So Gary will rejoin as we have another car down in the turn 2 area on the hook.
And that's actually the car of Doodle Dickens there, the 85 car from Bowling Green. He was the one we talked about who stalled in the crossover, that sort of started that mess, and maybe whatever that made him stall that time has cost him to stall again over there in the turn as the hook looks to pick him up.
Sure. So Dickens is he's out of lives here, Scott. He is probably on the hook for the last time, it would appear.
Yeah.
And Bird's going to have to get a ride here. So let's resort when we come back. I know one thing. R.J. Norton Jr. is your leader in Indianapolis, the 36th Annual World Figure 8 Championship. All right, Don Walker back with Scott and I here. Lap 128 we're showing. David Lee Bird is on the back of a flatbed here. Scott, it's Norton and Greg now. 2 cars, 2 winners, and the
that's right. Actually, the last 2 World Figure 8 champions there on the lead lap, and also during that caution period, we crossed the 1 hour mark of this race. So a little less than 2 hours left to go, and definitely an interesting restart lineup up there as we see R.J. Norton Jr., the leader, with his son R.J. Norton III. They're several laps down, starting side by side. He's also a top 10 runner here.
Keep something in mind here. Mark Harmon off in one of the crashes early, back out, down 5 laps, unofficial.
That's right, and that's not a bad situation. It's not a perfect situation, but an incident or a bad pit stop could put him right back up there with Norton having trouble or Greg having trouble.
He'll take that with 2 hours to go, less than 2 hours to go. Back green, R.J. Norton III has got a good run going. He's 5th. So the Norton family having a good run here tonight, early.
Yeah, Norton III's had a breakout season here this year at the Speedrome, Don. Picked up a couple of figure 8 wins, first of his career. And those two have been an interesting pair because Norton III was the top rookie in this race in 2009. Then he set out in 2010 to crew chief his dad's car. And, of course, as we mentioned before, they won the event.
Well, it's stacked up again here. Doug Gregg is continuing to look for open space. He wants no part of bumpers or fenders, and that's how he runs. Look at him. He'll come to a complete stop, probably pull off into the pit area if he has to, just to keep from getting hit.
Well, the interesting thing that's panning out on this, Don, is there's a leader or a couple of leaders out in front like rabbits, and then there's somebody hanging back. We saw Ben Tunney hang back, vault to the lead when they had trouble. We've seen Norton hang back with Bedell. Now, Bedell had trouble, and Norton vaulted the lead. And now we've got Norton in the lead, and Greg's ready to pounce on him if he has trouble. So a lot of waiting game for these guys in the bottom half of the top 5 paying out tonight.
Well, Ben Tunney's trying to pedal it harder. They show him down 2 laps unofficial. He's 3rd, so he's still within striking distance for sure. Let's watch him and see if he can stay out of trouble here for the next 30 minutes or so.
Another guy that's crept up into that leaderboard as we take a look is the 69C of Corey Harmon. He's moved into...
Oh, look out. Norton almost got in trouble there, Scott.
That was close. That was what we were talking about just a moment ago. But as we were talking with Corey Harmon, he's like the 3rd wheel sort of the Harmons here. The other 2 have big resumes coming into this race. And right here just past the 1 hour mark, he's the one that survived so far. He's up into 4th spot ahead of his 2 more resume-filled cousins.
The Harmons are saying don't count us out yet. It for sure is
3 big bullets in that gun looking to win here tonight.
Norton is comfortable leading when he's out front. He's led several laps in figure 8 racing throughout his career, whether it's Saturday night in Indianapolis during the regular season or big-time races. R.J. Norton not afraid to get out and lead as we see him cycle through. Let's find Doug Gregg and check the interval, Scott.
Yeah, we're looking at Norton. He's in that traffic trying to bounce through some cars right there. The 69 leads the way. And
that's the other 69, and he literally was trying to bounce through there, wasn't he?
Yeah, car vaulting off the side right there as Norton heads into the south end. He's got a decent-sized lead there over Greg, who's trying to cycle through.
Now, R.J. Norton Jr. trying to Doug Gregg is in the pit area, we're told. Let's get the glasses on Doug Gregg. He's peeled off, Scott.
Yeah, and that's a big deal right there because these guys do not like to leave the track under green because they lose big laps. So Doug Gregg definitely with an issue he needs to resolve.
Well, Doug Gregg would have not left the racetrack under green this early for sure. Now the 44 is blocked. Look out, that's where we've seen trouble. And we got another parking lot.
Yeah, the 44, it looks like the right front's bent down just a little bit right there, and that's the part that was damaged when he was in that wreck earlier this evening.
And that could give Doug Gregg a break that he might need now as he was off to the pits in there. Look at him. Doug Gregg is a slick guy, man. He's seen darted to the pits.
Right, but pitting under green, though, he definitely suffered a little bit more of a loss than he would have if he'd have stayed on the track. So definitely something caught his attention and sent him pit side.
Probably if he had peripheral vision would have stayed in there a little longer and topped off. Look at him. Will he go back off now?
No, and it looks like who we got stalled up there in turn 3.
Is that Leonard Basham? That's Leonard Basham, Scott.
Yeah, he tried to avoid running into the back of the 44 car when they were headed for the pit area there. Looks like he got the front end banged up a bit. Let's see if Basham could get back going again.
Leonard has announced this is his last race, the 1988 World Figure Champion winner here tonight from Louisville.
Yeah, don't count out Basham whatsoever. Any of this kind of damage, he'll run all night long too as they put the hook to the front of his car. He's got a heck of a pit crew down there looking to get him back in the race. And as you mentioned, this last start for him, he's going to want to run as much as he can tonight and before he puts his career in the books.
Sort it all back when we come back. World Figure 8 in Indianapolis. It's R.J. Norton Jr. Don Walker and Scott Nye here at the Indianapolis Speedrome, home of the World Figure 8 Championship. R.J. Norton Jr. has survived early on, moved to the front. Ben Tunney, with 144 laps complete, is down 1 lap in second place. Calvin Crane is shown in third place. Doug Gregg is fourth, down 3, Scott. Well, catches a break, I would think, if you look at that way. He was able to dart out, and then the yellow came out.
Sure, I think he certainly would have lost a couple more laps, maybe 3, Don, if the caution wouldn't have come out right there. So it definitely did bail his chances out. Calvin Crane moving into third is a surprise right now because we saw him in an accident early on tonight, and you've seen him rise back up the leaderboard, even though he's had some early issues in that car built by 8-time ARCA champion Frank Kimmel.
And Mark Harmon in the big crash early, back out and continuing to climb the leaderboard. 140 laps for Mark, 142. So they're showing him down 4 laps, and that's doable.
Sure, and that's the amazing part as we look through the top 10. Almost every one of those guys in that top 10 behind RJ there has had some sort of issue and has risen right back up into contention. So you never know what's going to happen.
Ben Tunney will be trying to scoop by him again on this restart to unlap himself and get on the lead lap watching. Well, Norton's car is coming in good.
Yeah, and that's a deal right there where Ben probably looks up on the leaderboard and sees himself there on our vision screen in second, not knowing if he's on the same lap or not with RJ right there. So we're going to see how hard he charges trying to get around the 69 of Norton.
Yeah. R.J. Norton Jr. is running well. He's saying, hey, keep away from me now as we're into a lap number 148 in hour 2, Scott.
Yeah, definitely we got some interesting situations going on here with all these guys on different laps, different agendas. RJ's trying to stay out of trouble, but definitely going full throttle with all those competitors mixing it up with him as Mark Harmon and Ben Tunney are right there on his tail.
Yeah, Doug Gregg is right behind Ben. He knows he's got to make a little hay as he's down a couple, at least, maybe 3.
Yeah,
so
Doug looks up there and doesn't see his name in the top 3 like it was before, so you know he's going to want to get right back up there and get in position.
So we're continuing on. Calvin Crane up there. Still a great run for Calvin.
Norton gets a little bit of clean air right there as he goes into turn 1. For a moment, he's got to be able to take a breath, but that crossover is going to clog back up here momentarily. So he's going to plan his strategy over the next few laps, able to shoot his way through that crossover and maintain that advantage.
Yeah, he's piling on some laps led for sure now as Ben Tunney's going to say, I want to take the one that I need back. So Ben Tunney That is not for the lead, but Ben knows he's down one.
Yeah, that's an interesting pack there around Norton. You got the 35 of Mark Harmon, of course, who led a bunch early. There's Ben, who's getting laps back. And right behind Norton is the 11 of Bedell trying to make up laps, as well as Riddle and Greg. You got a heavy pack right there surrounding the leader.
Yeah, Mark Harmon says, don't count me out. That would be something to come back from that big a crash. He's still in it, though.
Yeah, we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff happen. As Basham, we were talking about earlier the year, he won the world title. At one point in that race, Don, he was 11 laps down from the leader and ended up winning the event.
Look out. That was a near miss there as well. 16 right there trying to gain some ground.
Robbie Loving, definitely the Michigan champion, who finished fourth in this event last year in this brand new machine built by Bruce Tunney, is trying to get back up there and take the first ever title for the World Championship to Michigan.
We knew that was trouble. 1, 2, 3, 4 cars together. Harmon's in it again.
As well as Riddle, who's been running strong here tonight. Looked like the 75 of Washington's Mike Middleton took a sort of right-hand turn there into head-on traffic, picked up a couple of leaders there on his bumper, and let's see who could get moving.
Mark Harmon's moving. He's got a rear flat. Is that Stephen Frost?
Yeah, Stephen Frost has piled in. Steve, one of our alternates here tonight, been running some laps up, got caught up in that. Doesn't look like too much damage for Frost as he heads for the pit area.
Well, let's take a break, sort it back. R.J. Norton Jr. continuing the lead here. Lap 156 in Indianapolis. Well, we're back, Scott. As soon as we go to break, R.J. Norton Jr. peeled to the pits. Ben Tunney comes around back in the lead.
Yeah, two interesting things about that. R.J. pulls in as a strategy mode, but as we looked at Ben Tunney when he come around as the leader, his left side is all torn up on that car, so he got collected in some of that action too at the crossover. Ripped the quarter panel, about half the door off the 5 car.
I didn't see R.J. Norton have any problem there, so we would think that was a calculated stop. He's going to have to hurry because we're bunching up back to green.
Yeah,
there it is.
Bad timing there for Norton if that's his scheduled stop. Bad timing because the field's back under green quickly, so Norton's crew back there anxiously changing tires, putting fuel in it.
And there he is, though. So that was a calculated run for R.J. He's got tire and fuel. He's going to go down, though, out of the lead.
Yeah, he's having a tough time getting going, though, but he's moving. And if that was his scheduled pit stop, Don, he could go the rest of the way here, theoretically, to the finish. So this could be the pit stop move that puts R.J. Norton in victory lane. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out.
I'll agree with that, Scott.
Even though it was a short caution, his crew did get him back out there real quick.
Well, they wanted him to go for sure, and he went back. He lost 2 laps.
Right, bolted some fresh rubber on there and filled the tank up, and Norton's ready to rock one more time.
Yeah, not a bad spot to be in if he can keep it off the wall and off the fenders now the rest of the way
Well, definitely
home.
The way this race is going, you just need to keep yourself in play because it seems like the magnet sucks in all kinds of top cars into the crash mode. So, keep yourself in play. It could put you in the winner's circle.
Gary Bedell's been outstanding tonight as we near 1 hour and 44 minutes. Gary's been in the top 5 all day, all night.
Yeah, Bedell definitely, he had that crack up with the front bumper that really didn't slow him down that much and then headed for the pits. So he's back out, still staying strong as Ben Tunney leads this race with a torn-up race car.
So we sit back and watch this structure up here at 1 hour 43 minutes.
Yeah, closing in on that halfway mark here, not too far from that, which leads more to think on how RJ played that pit strategy as we near the halfway mark. He's got himself set up for that run. What other strategy will these other leaders play out as we head towards that halfway mark?
R.J. Norton Jr. is a very good strategist, and he's got a good team, so that is not a bad thing to follow if you're out there. If Norton's going in, these guys probably making a little bit of a mental note of that as far as saying, hey, we need to get back there at some point in time as well.
Well, the interesting strategy play we'll have to keep an eye out is for the C4 of Calvin Crane. Crane, actually, this is the only event that he runs all year long, so he prepares all year to run this event, you know, but that doesn't always keep his skills sharp, you would think, but here he is in second spot, and now we're going to have to see what his team could do when they head pit side for that crucial pit stop here in the next half hour, 45 minutes.
Tell you what, a guy that's used 8 and 9 lies, Mark Harmon back out there still again in 35.
Yeah, definitely keep chugging there for Mark Harmon, but, you know, as we mentioned earlier, you got to keep playing in the game, you know, to put yourself in a spot to win.
He won't say die for sure. So Ben Tunney out front now. Look at him. Let's pick him up in car 5, flashing through. Well, almost deja vu. It's not 5 laps, but he's back in the lead, Scott, from a year ago. And trouble down here. We got 3 cars together. And oh, look out. Ben Tunney almost
That was definitely deja vu because that was the exact same spot where Ben picked the back of Mike Burgess's car off while leading last year.
I tell you what, if that wasn't right on the money, he didn't have a 5-lap lead. He had a 1, and he just come about a credit card with clamping into those guys, and we continue on.
And that's what caught him last year. He didn't miss it by much last year, maybe 6 inches, and it peeled the whole suspension off the front of that car.
Well, here we go. Ben Tunney has clean air on this restart. You know, I tell you what, RJ the third, Scott, has had a good run tonight. He is talking about running clean.
Yeah, he's gotten through some good stuff right there, and he's trying to hang on to a top 10 spot there. He's currently in 9th for car number 9, as Ben Tunney likes to look for that clean air, as you mentioned, maybe catch a deep breath before that crossover starts to get back. And as we were talking during the break right there, Ben is on a lap of his own there, Don. He's all alone on the lead lap. 1 lap down in second is Calvin Crane, followed by the reigning World Figure 8 champion, Doug Gregg, who's also 1 lap back.
Well, then Norton, but Norton's in a lot better shape. I would consider Norton the leader with, you add the tires, fuel, and tweaks, but he's still chasing Ben Tunney right now at 1 hour and 38 minutes.
Sure, that's right, Don. He's 2 laps down, but he's ahead on the pit cycle of a couple guys there in front of him. So we don't know what Ben did during his pit stop, but it was probably too early to get him to the distance. So you're right, RJ's in a pretty good spot here right now. He needs to keep his nose clean.
I would think Ben Tunney would have to make a stop before the night's over. He's running a ragged pace out there. Look at him.
Well, but even though he made that pit stop, it's not going to get him to the distance. It might get him to the spot later in the race where it's a little clearer for the traffic to make a pit stop. But then again, when the traffic clears, the cautions may go away. So you're flirting with the devil there with your strategy.
Look at him. He's running a real loose race car right now, and with open track, there's nothing wrong with that. Watch him as he cycles through. He's got it on a razor edge, and that's how he likes to run anytime.
Yeah, that cautious mode that he talked about in pre-race and was playing there in the first half hour, he's thrown that to the wind, and now he's driving full speed ahead.
David Lee Bird may be the most daring and dangerous guy on the track tonight.
He's on live number 7, Don. Live number 7 of 9.
He's fun to watch, though. Look at him. He loves to race. And
yeah, and he's gotten a good ride there with the Frost team in that 16 car. Usually Steve Frost Jr. usually pilots that car, and Bird works on it quite a bit, and they've put him behind the wheel for this race.
Well, Ben Tunney's got a lap to play with, and he needed it then because he wasn't going to throw it away.
Well, what that did, Don, is that let Calvin Crane get around Ben there. Ben sashayed there headed towards the north end, and it let Crane get past him right there. So Crane has put himself back on the lead lap. Lexington, Kentucky's Calvin Crane could be the World Figure 8 champion by the time the night's over with.
Hold on, Las Vegas, on that.
That's right, but once again, it's about the 20th guy who's proclaimed the World Figure 8 champion so far in this race. We have just over an hour and 36 minutes to go, so that may change another 20 or 30 times.
Yeah, 182 laps now complete as we're nearing 200 complete. Ben Tunney trying to stay out of trouble as we watch him here for a few laps. ISO on him. Look at him run. So Ben Tunney on a razor's rail tonight, and that's how he likes to run any Saturday night here, as flies around the corner. R.J. Norton Jr. got a little push. They didn't like that either. Came right back around.
Well, and what it's doing is letting R.J. get a chance there for himself to cycle around the 5 of Tunney.
Well, R.J.'s car is sticking a little bit better, running a little bit stickier line, and there he goes around. That got a lap back.
Yeah, those fresher tires could have come into play in that battle right there. As we know, Ben has about 100 more laps on his than RJ does.
Well, Ben Tunney's fun to watch. He is throughout the years. He does. I use the word razor because he's on a sharp edge when he runs a race car. And he's obviously has the experience to win. He's a former winner. Threw it away last year, admitted it, had it won and threw it away. And it's his to win here tonight if he can hold on Norton or Greg or Crane.
Somebody else I'm looking at here down the results, in the bottom half of the top 20 is the 12 of Harold Murphy, who looks like he may be leading this super stock event here. The Speedrome Speedway competitor brought this extreme figure 8 car up here. First time in the world figure 8. And here he's heading the pack looking for that $5,000 bonus, which would be a huge payday for him.
Race within a race. Those guys don't really get the mentions they deserve, but Harold on a path right now to try to get him a big check.
That's right. Those guys, even though they're several laps off the pace of the leader, they're awful close battling it out, Nigel was in the mix there for a while till he had some trouble in the rear end, and now Murphy cycled up, and Art Grew is in the mix too in that 8 car.
Speedy Teepy's been out there. I don't know exactly where he's at, but we're continuing to watch Ben Tunney run razor edge lap after lap right now.
Well, and that's the style he learned from his dad, as we mentioned. His dad, the 2003 World Figure 8 champion, Bill Tunney Jr., drove that way for such a long time and thrilled the fans here at the Speedrome before he's sort of moved back into semi-retirement. But that's the way he drove, his foot to the floor all the way through.
Well, Ben Tunney's got to be in his mind saying, hey, I need to be careful coming off the corners. He thrown it away last year. There's a little more discipline right there. And he's had his handful of near misses tonight, but he's trying to settle it in, Scott.
Yeah, definitely, as we talked about earlier, it is a razor's edge. Whoa, tight at the crossover there. 5 cars almost in a wad. Ben Tunney was part of that mess that could have been right there.
Well, number 12 has got a flat tire. I think he's cut a marker and a tire.
Yeah, that's right. That's Murphy, who we were just talking about, who looks to be the leader in the super stock race. He's headed pit side to get some attention from his pit crew, but he's going to try to get back out there and soldier on for that big money.
Let's check in. Doug Gregg has been stable here. He's been in 3rd place for about 50 laps.
Yeah, and he's just 1 lap off the pace, so not a big problem there for Doug. He keeps his nose clean.
And we think Doug Gregg may be good on fuel too, Scott. He
sure,
was
he ducked in as well. So the strategy could be playing the way of the 2 last World Figure 8 champions, Greg and R.J. Norton Jr., who have had those pit stops.
We're near
for the
look out. Look out. 1, 2, 3. Big impacts. 4 cars involved.
And that's the C4 of Calvin Crane, who was our runner-up on the lead lap at the time. Major incident with Crane right there as he's been walloped in the crossover.
Big time hit. 75's been hit.
Mike Middleton's into it. The 49 of Riddle's in there, and I'll be darned if that's Nick Moore there in the white car sitting right there at the crossover.
Wow.
And that's another deal right there. Now that Crane's out of this, Don, we have the last 3 world champions running 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Going to duke it out.
Let's see what Ben Tunney does if he heads to the pits.
Doug's headed pit side now, too. We're taking like that. And that first time all night, Doug has some damage on the left rear. He's got a quarter panel dragging there, so I don't know how bad the damage is, but he's headed pit side.
Well, one thing's for certain, this is going to be a prolonged red. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, major damage.
Yeah, the big damage down here near turn 1 is the C4 of Crane, who was running 2nd place and running so great here tonight. heavy damage on the passenger side of that car has taken him out of the event. You can see how far it shot him down to the first turn after that accident.
We'll sort it out. Norton Jr. back to the lead in Indianapolis. Don Walker back with Scott Nye. 200 laps complete. Scott crashes. We've had them 1, 2, 3, and they've been big. They've gotten some of the big guys. Mark Tunney out. Mark Harmon out and back. Gary Bedell has withstood it. He cycled to the lead. Norton's got tires, gas. He's ready to go. R.J. Norton looks like maybe he's the guy. He's wrestling and racing with Ben Tunney tonight.
That's right. They've cycled up and down several times. The top 10 looks like a MASH unit right now. Guys have been crashed, taken out, cycled back up, fixed. The biggest incident most recently was Calvin Crane getting hit in the crossover, running second on the lead lap.
That was a big hit. Calvin Crane just was involved with, took out 4 guys.
That's right, and we'll see who cycles back up from that because, like I said, the whole top 10 is almost like a MASH unit. So who knows going to get bit next, who's going to come through.
Great race as always here. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, 200 laps in, probably 200 to 250 to go. So.
We want to send out a best of wishes to a 6-time World Figure 8 champion, Kenny St. John, who's not with us this year. We say hello to Kenny, and Jack Dawsey not here. Jack has a lot of well-wishers. A couple of the Kings here missed sorely tonight.
That's right, and we definitely want to wish that to Kenny St. John. He's had a tough year health-wise, but I know he's here with us in spirit. We see him on Facebook all the time wishing us well and predicting the race winner earlier today.
And we say hello to all the Speedrome viewers and fans all across the country. It's our first ever pay-per-view event, and we welcome all. Again, we say Kenny is our best.
And definitely with this pay-per-view event, stay tuned in the future. There's going to be a lot of Speedrome racing on this World Figure 8 Tour Network for years to come.
All right, more action. Let's get back to it. Well, Scott and I were back here, and another crack up, which is what this race can be about many times a night. And Speedrome X marked the spot right there.
The track crew doing a cleanup from that big wreck. You know, lots of fluid around, so these guys aren't going to spend a ton of time on it, but they're going to throw a little oil dry down and get the field back ready to go, as this is an endurance race.
I got to tell you, a guy that just will not go away tonight is Mark Harmon right out there. Look at him up front again, scrubbing his tires in, trying to race again to get back another lap. What do we have him at?
He's down quite a few there, but he's been putting himself in a spot where he's pressuring those leaders into maybe some mistakes. So you have to keep an eye on him. What we've got right now is an interesting situation with the guys spread apart here. We have Bedell and Norton, which are the top 2 guys on the lead lap. They're actually in the second row starting up here because these guys, that's where they were picked up with the leader when we had the accident. So those 2 are going to duke it out on the lead lap side by side as we go to a green here in just a moment. The 11 of Gary Bedell, your leader. R.J. Norton Jr. running second side by side. And then third place, there's the defending world champion, Doug Gregg, who is 2 laps off the pace, but well ready to take advantage of any mistake.
And Ben Tunney is obviously stopped now. He's on the back end of the field, so Ben Tunney is looks like they've pulled away some of the tape and the maybe plastic, and looks like Ben's ready to go too, Scott.
Well, that's something that the bad luck for his brother Austin and his brother Jesse early on has placed those 2 guys in the pits to help out as well. So they're putting all those eggs into Ben's basket right now and trying to get him back up to win the $20,000 and his second World Figure 8 Championship. He's made that pit stop, so he's in pretty good shape here again.
No doubt, had no chance but to stop. So the leaders have all pitted now. Norton, Gregg, and now Ben Tunney as we get ready to go back to green.
And each one on a different cycle slightly, so, we're going to see how that plays out with new tires versus used tires with these guys. All should have a good fuel load here right now, so let's take a look at that as we go back to green.
Corey Turner and Mark Harmon are out front, but they're way down in the cycle Look at Harmon go. He can only think, Scott, that if he could have avoided a fracas or two, he'd be on his way tonight.
Well, those two definitely are down the serial in scoring, but not down the list on enthusiasm as they charged into turn 3 and 4 with the leader, Gary Bedell, mixing it up with him. R.J. Norton Jr. just a few feet back off of his bumper. Both cars on the lead lap.
Doug Gregg is like Ben Tunney. He's got some cosmetic damage on his car, but look at him. It looks racy now.
Absolutely. Doesn't have to worry about scratching up that new paint job he had for this weekend from one of his sponsors, and he's ready to go.
And right back out of the green flag, we got more problems in the crossover. A couple of cars at 66.
That's big John Collins there driving that 66 machine, former Bomber figure 8 guy. Making his first start here in the late models, and it's definitely gotten his attention.
I want to tell you, 29 come flying off the corner. He never saw him until the last second, or that would have been full hit. And now we do have a caution.
We're going to pick up there John Macho Man Collins there in the 66. They're going to get his car pushed away. He's driving for Team Whitaker here this weekend as he gets his car refired and back going.
I can tell you, I watched that when John Collins can only hope that it went caution because 29.
Bobby Corbin III. Them two looked like they were going to merge together when they went through there because I tell you what, getting hit in the crossover is one bad thing, but getting hit in the rear end at 75 miles an hour is definitely a place you don't want to be.
I'm going to tell you, Collins would have ended up on East Washington Street if he would have hit him here on that. That was...
Yeah, and fans, for you that aren't around here, that's a couple of miles up the road, so that's one heck of a shot he was going to take.
That would have been a big headache. So we've seen the trend, and it's normal here. These restarts bring out the problems. These guys cycle around, and in the tail end, is in the middle of the racetrack, stopping and going, and some of these guys, I don't know whether they don't see that well or whether they just think they can hit and run, but, they do it.
Yeah, and that restart, the way it went out was bad luck for Mark Harmon because he just got put back right behind him as they went green.
And now we've got a car down in turn 2. And
looks like Shackelford maybe.
Jeff Shackelford is trying to keep that thing alive, and look out. Boy, that's dangerous backing it up. Shaq's hung in there tonight. He's had 3 or 4.
That's a situation that was sort of similar to Nick Moore earlier, but Shaq got his car back underway a lot quicker than Nick did before they piled in there on him.
Sure did. Gary Bedell. Well, Gary's had a fantastic Saturday here at the racetrack. Second in quals, and he has been near the top all night long.
Yeah, even with that mangled front bumper right there, Bedell still leads.
Chad Sizemore is along the turn 3 area.
Chad's had a tough day, too. He spent all afternoon trying his best to get in the field, and he slipped in there in the last minutes, getting that last starting spot. But ever since then, he's had a lot of minor little cracks up here tonight to keep him down the running order.
He's got some common sense to pull it out of harm's way. That's a safe place.
Yeah, definitely got some front-end damage or something there on the 0 of Sizemore. He's going to have to wait for a caution in the hook.
Let's watch Ben Tunney as we pick it back up. Bedell, Norton, Doug Gregg. So let's check the interval, Scott. Let's find Gary Bedell on the racetrack. There he is in turn 1, and there's R.J. Norton Jr. A couple of rabbits here all the time.
Heavy traffic has separated the two by about a dozen car lengths, but that's not going to slow Norton down as Bedell heads in there trying to lap Danny Turner and the 69C of Corey Harmon.
Yeah. So Norton trying to chase down the 11. And it continues as RJ3 has to go on a U-turn version here.
Yeah, that's not good on his lap count, but it's good on survival to take that turn every once in a while and save your neck. You'll live to fight another lap.
Sure is. Look at it. Wild again. Again, looks like opening lap.
Yeah, definitely some enthusiastic guys shooting through that crossover. We're here. We only have an hour and 18 minutes left in this race so far. Cars are getting tired. Drivers are getting a little weary. So that crossover could bite you at any time now.
There they go. Big pile of cars through turns 1 and 2. Robbie Loving is continuing to hang in there into 16. As Hargraves right there, Charlie Hargraves in the 36 continues to
he's had a pretty good night, Don. He's under the radar, staying around the top 5. maybe within 5 laps of the lead, you know, so Hargraves has put himself in a position too.
Caution out, stop car.
Yeah,
we got 2 cars. We have a car on top of one another.
And it's the aforementioned Hargraves there, who's planted himself on top of another car coming off turn 4. Looks like they've hooked wheels, and Hargraves has mounted him rudely on top of somebody else right in front of this big crowd.
Happens every time. Tell a guy he's doing great and look up, and he's got an issue here.
I've jinxed about 12.5 guys already this evening, and I want to apologize to them and for the bad luck, but you know, sometimes that happens here in the World Figure 8 Championship.
We'll be back. Norton and Bedell are battling it out here with Doug Gregg third.
All right, we're going green back here at the World Figure 8 Championship. The green comes out. We got a side-by-side duel there between Norton and Bedell. These two on the same lap, trading paint here through 1 and 2, looking for this lead with 1 hour and 12 minutes to go, lap 228. These two battling it out. Bedell looking for his first ever World Figure 8 Championship. Norton looked to add a second one to his collection as the defending champion, Doug Gregg, tries to creep into the fray right there and get one of those laps back and put himself in the mix with those two. Bedell runs first, Norton on his bumper for second, and there's Doug Gregg lurking right there in the third spot.
Well, Scotty, R.J. Norton and Bedell are a couple of rabbits getting a little bit late in the race. Doug Gregg doesn't want to be down any more than he is.
Yeah, you know, we talked about earlier these guys getting down a lap or so, you know, and no problem. But, you know, as the time creeps on, those laps starting to become bigger and bigger and bigger because the time is less for you to make them up.
More trouble for the leaders up there. David Lee Bird.
Bird tried to double up and pick off first and second there at once. He had to sashay to the left, go to the oval, but he didn't hit either one of them. So Bird lives again, and so do those leading trio.
Bird gives running on a ragged edge a little bit more of a defined moment, doesn't he, Scott?
Yeah, he maybe should be 17 or 16 J for Jam Car. David Lee Bird is putting on the action here, but you know what? He's piling up the laps too because he keeps coming back out and coming back out.
There was 4. Now it's only 2 piled up.
Yeah, a few guys got stalled up at the crossover there. Murphy and the 77 of Garrigus got stalled, both back underway.
Caution's out. Gary Bedell continuing the lead here. He's chased by Norton Jr. and Doug Gregg. Don Walker, Scott Nye back at the World Figure 8 Championship 2012 here in Indianapolis. A shootout developing now with Bedell, Norton, and Doug Gregg.
Yeah, this will be the 3rd or 4th restart, Don, that these two have slotted themselves side by side. And the green's going to fly here momentarily. And let's see who gets the big advantage this time as these two duke it out.
Well, R.J. Norton has been content if somebody jumps out in front of him to follow him around. Watch Doug Gregg. He was chasing that pace car early on that last caution, trying to stay a little bit closer to restart. Norton to the front.
Yeah, and as we talked with Greg and others in the past that are down a lap or so, they get up there to mix it up with the leaders and try to push them into a mistake, and all of a sudden it'll put them right back up as we near the 2-hour completed mark here in the World Figure 8 Championship.
Now, Norton and Bedell have been very, very strong here tonight, and they've been able, one way or another, to stay out of trouble. There goes Doug Gregg. He's got 4 or 5 cars right there in the middle cycling through. It was Ben Tunney's one of them.
Yeah, Bedell used up some of that luck when he got in that crash with the front bumper. Luckily, the bumper was the only thing damaged in that. It could have easily been suspension or the radiator or any of the steering mechanisms. So Bedell got through that unscathed, and he's making up for it with a lot of speed.
Could be a bumper that wins him $20,000 tonight.
Yeah, that's a bumper he might cut off and save in his garage if he puts it into victory lane.
Let's find Ben Tunney. Is he down 1 lap? There he is up in turn 2. He's down 2, we're told now.
But still definitely in the mix. He's really not too far behind those guys trying to get a lap back. Maybe 6 or 8 lap cars between he and the leading duo.
Now, so don't count him out. Running on a rail. He's not quite as ragged as he was, but he's also been in some scrapes tonight as well.
Yeah, every time we count one of those guys out, it seems like they get right back into the mix after some sort of incident.
So they continue on. Doug Gregg, now he's shown fourth as they put Bentunney in front of Doug.
Yeah, those two are around the same lap right there, battling Don and trying to get back into the mix.
Norton is beginning to try to put some distance, but he can't do it on Bedell. Gary Bedell has him right in his sights. He's not going to let him get away. He said, hey, take me with you. He's in his draft, and Gary probably says, I'll ride with you all the way to the last 10 laps or so with that.
Yeah, those two have stayed close like it's, as you mentioned earlier, a 25-lap race. These two are battling straight to the end. Hopefully for them, they're trying to make it a 1-2 shootout all the way to that checkered flag.
Yeah, look at RJ go. RJ's had a very good handling car. His son just went on a wild surf and caught it right before he found the concrete.
Yeah, definitely. He's seen that 16 of Bird shoot in there, and we've seen all evening Bird's not going anywhere. He's going right through that crossover, gas pedal down, no brakes applied. David Lee Bird.
The Iron Man for sure. DLV, well, he is worth a buying. Oh, look out, and that's Norton, Scott.
I caught that just as it was happening. RJ turned to the right just a little bit, and there was Danny Turner spiking him right in the driver's door right there. We're going to get a look down to see how RJ Norton is. That was one whale of a shot right there. RJ backs his car up amazingly after being hit in the driver's door. Wow.
That was a spectacular crash here.
Yeah, Turner hit him, spiked him right in the driver's door. There must have been a blind spot there at the crossover. Those two veterans of the figure eight hit right there in the crossover. One more leader guy getting taken out.
God, you're a historian here. That is very similar to the Danny Turner, Fred Bear Jr. incident years ago. Almost identical.
Sure, right here on the front stretch, those two and two speedy cars getting hit, and Turner ends up on the front stretch wall, and Norton, who seemed like he took the bigger blow, fired his car right up and headed towards the pit area.
Wow. Danny Turner is still in his car. Wow. Blindside hit. Now, if Norton could come back from that, that would be amazing. We've seen it. We'll check on him. Now, it looks like Gary Bedell's shown in the lead. We'll check when we come back from Indianapolis. Back, Don Walker back with Scott and I, lap 247, big crack up. Danny Turner, longtime figure eight driver. RJ Norton Jr., one of the best here. And will he make the return, Scott?
Yeah, that was one heck of a hit right there. Danny Turner center punched Norton in the crossover. Definitely a blind spot for both those gentlemen right there as they connected at the X. But Norton did happen to back his car up and head for the pits, but it did have substantial damage. But the point that he was able to roll into the pit area should help things as we go back green.
He did not make the call right there, so that brings Bedell forward again. Doug Gregg, Bentunney.
Yeah, that's right. Gary right now looks like he's got a couple of lap lead on the field right there as Greg is going to elevate into that second spot.
Shaq's back out. It's been a long night for Shaq, but he's hung in there.
Well, what Shaq's done, though, by coming back in and out, he's in the top 15 right now by making those laps, lap after lap.
And he may have a problem right out of the gate, and we got another problem out of the gate.
Looks like Roberts there had a little trouble with 1R.
With RJ3.
And RJ3's got some smoke from the right rear. It looks like maybe it's bent the rear end a little bit or something.
Now there he is. Norton is trying to get back in the fray.
Yeah, Norton came out, looked like he wiggled the wheel a little bit right there just to see what he's got as he's stuck at the crossover now behind the 1R of Roberts.
Talk about bad luck.
Yeah, you see him once again there as he gets going, kind of shake the wheel back and forth to see what he's got. You know, he took one hell of a hit right there in the driver's door, and Norton is back on track.
Let's watch him. He's down. He's Leonard Basham back off, or no, that was RJ3 in the 9. Well, let's watch Norton and see if he's got any kind of speed left in it after the big hit.
Doug Gregg has cleared that traffic there, and he's about a dozen car lengths behind Bedell, but he is 2 laps off the pace right there, so he's going to try to catch the leader and see what he could do with him 2 laps back. It looks like that Ben Tunney's about 3 laps behind, and creeping up into that top 4 for the first time all night is the Michigander, Robbie Loving.
Yeah, Robbie Loving.
He's about 10 laps off the pace, but he's creeping right into that top 5.
Talking about bumping and grinding and staying up, this Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie ran for 20 years before he picked up that first top 5 finish, and he did that last year, finishing 4th. He's going to try to go back-to-back here.
Well, this looks like a Doug Gregg setup here. You know, he's second. Gary Bedell has ran the race of his life here tonight, to be quite honest. And Doug Gregg is saying, hey, I'm going to try to reel you in.
Yeah, as we near the 1 hour to go mark, you know, these guys are going to have to look and see how their strategy plays out because they pitted earlier and they're good on fuel, so we're going to have to see how their tires are.
And another caution.
We've got a few stalled cars there on the back that they're looking at right now that bringing that caution out, one of them being the 28G of Shackelford, who you mentioned came out of the pit area and didn't look like he had his issues resolved there as he came out on the track.
Well, Shax gave it his best here tonight. Doug Gregg has been in a lot of, looked like he's had a problem.
Yeah, and it looks like he evaded the pace car right there and tried to get him a lap back by going around Doug Gregg, but the caution was already out there, and Doug has lost a lap there.
And he may be headed to the pit areas where he may be headed, no?
It's 11.5.33. That actually has been a position change. But Doug passing the pace car right there has put him in a spot where Ben Tunney and he are on the same lap now, with Ben elevating himself to the second spot. He and Gregg 3 laps down off the pace behind Bedell. We're closing in on that 1 hour to go mark.
We have had a couple of years of excitement in 2 hours here tonight.
That's right, and still a lot of storyline to play out tonight. This book's a page-turner as we head for the conclusion here in the final hour of the World Figure 8 Championship presented by Pure Power Technologies and UAW. This is the greatest figure 8 race on the planet.
R.J. Norton is still moving around out there. It says, don't count me out. Look at him. He's got a little wheel skip there, it looks like.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't give up, the 69 R.J. Norton. If that car will make it to the finish, he'll drive it there.
Oh, look out. Bedell almost got clipped right there in the first turn. I don't want to jinx Gary Bedell, Scott, but it always seems like every one of these races somebody runs an almost near perfect race, and Gary's been there for 2 hours.
Sure, as we talked a little bit ago, he got past his little bugaboo there with the front end bumper, and if that's the only piece of bad luck he has tonight, he could be on his way to the victory.
Oh, look out. We got a car up tilted almost in.
Looks like Hargraves again, this time with the other side of the car.
Oh, boy.
He in the 76 car, I believe, of Ricky the Kid Dietz has looked like they got into it. That's an ironic situation right there, as Charlie's brother Johnny is the crew chief on that 76 machine, as we see smoke possibly from the Proctor car.
Heavy damage. Bedell is trying to use his good vision through all that. Is Hargraves, and is that Dietz?
It looks like maybe Proctor there and Hargraves that are stalled there now to bring out this caution flag.
And that brings out the caution. Well, Gary Bedell doesn't mind a caution now and again because the clock keeps ticking, and a little bit of time to rest your mind, rest your nerves, rest your car.
Yeah, that's right. 59 minutes to go in this race. Time is the enemy of Gary's challengers as they look to eclipse him from the World Figure 8 Championship lead. But Bedell is going to take a breath right here and try to cinch up those belts and make another run towards the green flag here momentarily.
Let's sort it back. Right now, it's Gary Bedell, 58 minutes away from a World Figure 8 Championship. Lights are out of the truck. Bedell gets back on the gas.
And there's that pesky Mark Harmon right there jumping him off the start. We've been talking about him a lot tonight. Been an eventful evening for the 35 of the Fisherville, Kentucky driver.
I don't know who's been better on not saying give up tonight, Mark Harmon or David Lee Bird. That's kind of at different extremes, but they've given you your money's worth and then some here.
That's right. These guys lay it on the line. They look forward to this race all year long, so they're going to give it all they got for 3 hours.
Let's find Ben Tunney, Scott. Looking through, there he is. He's almost got both of his numbers on the left side for sure tore off. That's why I couldn't find him. There
when he heads northbound, the car looks great, but when he heads southbound, it's been torn up quite a bit there.
Look at him, though. He's on rails right now, Scott. Watch him the last 2 or 3 laps. Ben Tunney is on the fly there. Look at him.
Yeah, and he might have been the latest one to make pit stops, so he may have the best tires out of those top running group.
I would not know. Hargraves back to the pits there. Ben Tunney looks to me to be the fastest car on the track. Gary Bedell looks to be the most composed guy on the track right now.
Yeah, Gary definitely is a cool customer. He's ran a lot of different series across the Midwest, been very successful, and he's been in a lot of tight spots, so he knows how to be cool there. But, you know, the luck still is on the line in this figure 8 race.
And then the third part of that is Doug Gregg has the most experience on the racetrack, and that's where it's settling in now as we head to the finish.
Not only has Greg won the race on 2 different occasions, but he's finished in the top 5 numerous times. So he's been in a spot to win this way more than Bedell has at this point in their career.
Yeah, it's fun to watch Ben Tunney scoot around here. But Gary Bedell is really looking good. Well, we're told that Ben Tunney, Doug Gregg, 2 laps down officially now. 2. So Gary's got a 2-lap lead here, Scott, to play with the final 55 minutes.
Yeah, and even though that sounds like a lot, but that time gap, you know, these guys making up, you know, laps around the 20-second mark, you know, so 18 to 20 seconds. So it's easy to click off 2 laps and get those back if you have a minor skirmish, a flat tire, anything.
So we again take a backed version look right now of the leader, Gary Bedell. Look at him. Well, Ben Tunney's trying to get one of them back there, Scott. I was on cue with that. Look at him. There he is trying to close up to take one of them back.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, as he closes in on Bedell, he's driving with reckless abandon in that 5 car right there. Ben Tunney on rails, laying it on the line, trying to get one of those laps back. He's right on the back bumper, now underneath Bedell.
Now, that's a combination. Ben Tunney is quicker. Gary's got a little bit of advantage, though he may not know it right inside his racing helmet right now. Almost like he's racing him for position.
Right, and that's the deal where Ben knows he's behind him no matter what, how many laps, because he can see the scoreboard and see himself in second. So he's going to drive as hard as he can, where Bedell doesn't know whether he's on the same lap or 1 lap down or 2 laps down from Ben Tunney. So he's going to have to play it safe right here and stay on the gas as well as the crossover gets crazy.
Ben's trying to press him into an air here is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, it looks like we've got Manny Aguilar spun around down there, but he gets going quickly. You're right. I think Ben is trying to force an error on Bedell there as they get into heavy traffic.
Because Gary, when it comes down to protecting his line, does not want to move over right now, and that would be indicative that he thinks that maybe he doesn't have any laps to play with.
Sure, because if he lets Ben slide by that one time and then the caution flag comes out, Ben gets to cycle all the way back around there, and that's a big disadvantage to your leader, Bedell.
Definitely the two fastest cars on the racetrack. Doug Gregg is, I've watched him. His back tires have been seeming to go away.
Yeah, he's in that spot, too, where he's trying to rally from a few laps down. You know, he sees the clock. He knows that the time's winding down, so he's going to do whatever he can to make those laps up as well.
Yeah, this really is the race. Bedell, not knowing if he's got a couple laps to play with, is being stalked here lap after lap. Watch him. If you watch Ben Tunney try to, dart around him, Gary doesn't want to let him go.
Yeah, Bedell trying to be defensive and Ben trying to be relentless as they head into that heavy traffic. They actually bang into each other right there when the traffic stops right in front of them. So any minor incident can flatten a tire and send one of them to the pit area and disappoint their day.
And we'll remind everybody, our fans watching, these cars don't have radio communication, so Gary Bedell really not knowing if he's got a couple aces in his hand, and or he'd probably be better off to let him go.
Right, that's a point where normally on a short race, a 50-lap, or on a regular Saturday night, you pretty much know where all your competitors lay. But in this kind of race where they've been racing over 2 hours, you don't know how many times they've been to the pit area or had damage, so you've just got to drive 10 tenths at all times.
Well, R.J. Norton Jr. took that big hit. You have to admire him. That car seems to be running pretty well, too.
Yeah, if we were giving out a Goodies Headache Award here tonight, RJ might get it because that was one heck of a hit, and he came right back out after just losing a couple laps in the pit area, and he's driving like he's got a chance still to win.
RJ is fourth now, Scott, so we can't count him out.
That's amazing. He's 4 laps down after getting hit in the crossover in the driver's door at 60 to 70 miles an hour.
And now Ben Tunney had to go way wide there as he tapped Bedell. And that bought Gary a little bit of time. Again, 2 laps in front to play with. Ben Tunney is hanging it out there. He's really throwing it. He doesn't want second or third here tonight.
That's right. He doesn't want those spots. Once you've been to the winner's circle, you drink that taste of the milk there in Victory Lane. You want to get back there again every time.
I think it's a combination now. Ben has been on edge all night, as we've discussed. It looks like he's used up the best of his back tires, too. So he has zero margin of tolerance now when he makes a mistake. Look at Gary Bedell, ride of his life tonight.
Yeah, and that's something else, too, Don. It's starting to feel like, a lot more green flag laps here recently. Even though we've had a few cautions, they've gotten back to green rather quickly. So, they're going to put a lot of laps on the board here in this final 50 minutes. So the pressure's on every single time they orbit the track.
Yeah, we continue to watch them. Let's find Doug Gregg. Doug has not had the pace the last half hour, so he's hanging in there, though. He's running off all of his years here. Look at him.
Yeah, he's trying to hang around best he can in that 33 car. A little bit of damage there, losing that left rear wing and quarter panel, but Doug a few laps off the pace, still driving 10 tenths just like Ben Tunney, trying to make up those laps on Bedell. But that clock continues to run the wrong way for those two challengers.
Now look, here he comes again. Had to go way wide, lost a quarter of a lap or so. Here he comes again.
Yeah, Ben's definitely trying to be relentless here with Bedell as they cross 290 laps complete.
Look, yeah. Well, he tries. Still 2 laps in hand, so Gary Bedell could only hope that, he would know he was 2 laps up. We'd be repetitive with it, but Gary's driving like, hey, this would cost me the race.
Yeah, and these guys are, Ben makes a move underneath Bedell there in one, but gets held up a bit by the 69C of Corey Harmon as they're in heavy traffic as they head northbound in the figure 8.
No doubt about it. Well, I feel something about to happen here. As hard as Ben has pushed him, it seems like every time he gets ready to go around him, Gary's been able to pull away, or he has a car pick him off and buy him some more room.
Well, and them two could get to racing with each other and concentrating on their internal race, you know, and get bitten by the crossover or lap traffic without, you know, really paying attention to it, because they're racing each other so hard right now.
Sure is. You know, Gary Bedell's crew would like to be yelling over there on that fence, let him go, let him go.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen Bedell lead this race before in the past, but never this deep into the event. So Gary's in uncharted waters right now. Even though he's finished in the top 10 before, it's usually with some damage and things. Here he is with the full focus on him. Everything to lose is in his camp right now.
Yeah. He's been A+ here tonight for sure as we get deep into this race. Another long stint of green here as well.
Yeah, that's another deal we got to watch out for, because without the pit stop situation being opened up by a caution flag, you know, that may change strategy of these top 3 players right here too.
Continue to watch Norton try to claw his way back from 4 laps down.
Yeah, that's amazing when you see his car come by. That dent in the driver's side looks like it's about 1.5 feet deep, you know, and he's not sitting much farther behind that with the protective roll bars of the 69 car.
Yeah, he's trying to make a lap, come back, and only cut it to 3. Easily done here with 47 minutes left. Gary Bedell, though, was been pushed hard and had answered every lap so far by the 5.
Yeah, and those 3 cars are in a mix right now, because there's Norton closing in on the back of Bedell, trying to get one of those laps back. That's just incredible what he's come back from.
Yeah. Now, Gary Bedell would know that. Let's see if there's a difference of Norton if he lets him go. He would not let Bentani go.
Sure, because he had a good visual shot of him getting hit in the crossover, so he knows he's probably several laps more down than he's thinking. So we'll see what Gary does as they start to enter about a dozen lap cars in front of them.
Big-time traffic here now. Watch, they'll both climb back up on him.
Yeah, and those leading cars are at the very back of this pack, so they're going to have to push their way through if they want to get to clean air and move away in the lap serial.
Yeah, well, Norton got the lap.
300 laps in the books there, Don. Just over 46 minutes left to go. So these guys have really been cranking it up here the last half an hour or so with putting a lot of laps on the board.
Full throttle for sure here the last 20, 30 minutes. Look at Norton. Norton's mad out there, I think is what he is, Scott. He has been flying. So that machine, that race car, is handling very well after that crash. So
yeah, and that's something about that crash that's of note, too. Even though it was in the driver's door, it missed both those wheels on that side. So the handling still may be there. As you mentioned, he's running good right now. The damage was in the center section of the car, and he passed Bedell there to get a lap back and seems to have the speed to pull away if they can get out of this traffic.
Yeah. Well, Bentani is on that high line. He darts to that high side lap after lap. Now I think what he's waiting for is maybe somebody chalks up in front of him and force Bedell into an error besides him having to do it.
Right, and they're in those tight confines, you know, where RJ's trying to gain laps back, Ben's trying to gain laps back. Those two have nothing to lose at this point in the event, where Gary Bedell's pinched in between them in the meat and the sandwich, and he's got everything to lose here battling with those guys for position.
Still continue to watch. Well, RJ Norton Jr. would probably
looks like Ben's gotten inside of them there, Don, right down here in the south end,
well,
side by side with Bedell.
If Gary Bedell would only know, you know, it would give him a little bit of peace of mind. Look at him. He will not let him go, Scott.
Yeah, Ben tried to pick him off there on the slower car of Speedy TP, but Gary was having nothing of it. He cut underneath TP, and the two split the stock car there in the north end of the track, and Bedell stays right in front of Ben. These two are duking it out, tooth and nail.
There's no doubt now this, after about 50 laps of this or so, that Gary Bedell thinks Bentani's on the same lap with him. He surely wouldn't fight with him like this all the way through.
Yeah, he's dueling him pretty hard, and you know what's done with that, with those two battling like that? Norton got around those guys for that lap back, and he's driving away from them in traffic. So that battle between Bedell and Ben right there is helping RJ get away from the leaders.
Well, they call it out that Ben gets around him, and Gary Bedell. Look at this pit fence, too, Scott. You see the Gregg crew. You see the Norton crew. You know, Bedell's bunch is in there.
I tell you what, I've been in that spot, Don, and it's tough to be a crew member of these guys in this race because you're so tense on the fence watching them and trying to be prepared to fix any problem that they have at a moment's notice. These hard-working guys don't handle these pit stops on a normal night, so this is big for them to not hurt their driver in the standings with bad pit work.
Well, they probably wouldn't mind having the strongest voice if they could get him to cycle it by the fence because Bedell sure could have used that, hey, let him go a long time ago.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, without the use of radios in this event, you know, they're not able to communicate and say, hey, let him go, or you're ahead, or, you know, here's your car, how it's handling, pit now. It's all in the driver's hands to make those decisions. And then the pit crew has to react in a moment's notice when the driver darts into the pit area.
So let's see if Ben Tunney's been able to, well, he's got about 20 car lengths ahead to, he'll have to come around one more time to get the second lap.
Well, and you know something, Don, we've been talking about whether Gary and Ben know, you know, how their relationship is in lap-wise. Gary at least just learned one thing. When Ben passed
he's still the leader.
That's right. He's seen himself on the leaderboard. He may be on the lead lap, no, as far as Gary knows in his head, but, you know, he's seen that he's still the leader. That's the only thing that he gained from that battle.
I'll guarantee you, Gary, but I mean, Ben Tunney knew he was not leading, so that was the pressure and the pressure and the pressure.
Yeah, and that's going to make Ben want to charge even harder, saying, okay, this next time might be the time that my number goes to the top of the serial scoring. So he's going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing as we have 42 minutes left to go.
Doug Gregg has been in third place here the last half hour or so. No gain, no loss right now, third place. And 40 minutes remain. 42 minutes, that is.
But as we mentioned before, if he's about 3 laps off the pace, that's only about 60 seconds in time on the track. And with 41 minutes to go, 60 seconds is not that big of a lead at all.
Yeah, I was looking at the interval there. Norton, Bedell is running some strong laps still, not letting any of these guys come back too far around him to get the second lap that some of them are needing.
Yeah, and once again, we're in that spot. We've had a ton of green flag laps right here as the 85 car of Dickens is stalled at the crossover once again. He's going to try to get the car moving. Hopefully nobody collects him there at the crossover as he bumps the starter motor trying to get himself through the crossover in a bad spot there.
He may get bumped real quick.
Frost there makes a last-second maneuver and doesn't center punch Dickens.
Gary Bedell had the 8 spin right in front of him there. All going his way right now for sure.
That's another factor that's come in. These guys that have been repairing their cars over and over and over are back out on the track, and while the leaders are dicing around them, some of those repairs might not be the best of corrections made in the pit area. One of these cars may break around the leader or just be fatigued, you know, and cause some sort of situation that the leader could get wrapped up in. So Bedell's having to tiptoe around every single car as Ben Tunney almost gets collected in the crossover.
We've had a very long, extended period of green here this time, and these guys are getting tired and tireder. So we're running on adrenaline now.
That's right, and a guy in Gary Bedell's position is hearing those mechanical gremlins possibly creeping up on his car. You know, he's saying, baby, just hold together for another 40 minutes, and we're going to go to victory lane.
Gary has been fantastic here the last hour or so. Under 40. Let's find the interval. Is it a lap and a half? Where is Ben Tunney? It's about a lap and a half. Gary would wonder this next time Ben comes around if it would be a fight for position.
That's right. He'll really be scoreboard watching if he starts seeing that 5 in his rear view mirror. But for right now, Gary can look out the side of his car and see Ben just a couple turns ahead.
Well, Ben was on a very feverish pace about a half hour ago. He's not quite as quick as you see visually. I don't know whether that's a combination of tires or what. We know he normally doesn't know anything less than flat out, but watch him there.
Yeah, him and Norton have sort of hooked up there together and kind of pulled away from Bedell. These two trying to accomplish the same mission of getting their laps back. So they've sort of drafted their way in some sort of a way away from the leader of Bedell, who is trying to stay clear of all bad news.
We have been on a very, very long extended period of green now, and Bedell is trying to keep out in clean air. There he is. Mark Harmon still out there.
Looks like the 21 of Proctor slowed a bit there in the south end. The California champion here at the Speedrome for about the 4th time in his career. Has a top 10 finish under his belt. He's had some struggles tonight, but he still persists, and the 21 of Proctor still on the move.
Gary Bedell right there in turn 3 again.
Like you mentioned, we've been running a lot of laps here under green, you know, and if we go the rest of the way, you know, that's going to put another bunch of laps in the books. It's going to be tough to hang on to this.
Speedy Teepee with another good run tonight in the Superstock division. It's amazing how a guy like Speedy can keep his nose clean so long.
That's right. These guys, the race within a race you mentioned before, they keep soldiering on. You know, the 12 of Harold Murphy, 48 of TP on the track right now, the 8 of Art Grew. These guys are definitely battling out. That's some big cash at stake, $5 grand for the Superstock champion.
12 and the 8 are 7 laps separate. 12 and 8, 7 laps separate. Ben Tunning continuing to try to get back another lap here. 3:30 complete. 3:30 complete. 36 minutes coming up.
And we've been told unofficially that the 12 car of Harold Murphy has a 7-lap advantage over the 8 of Art Grew for that $5,000. Both these guys are competitors at the Speedrome Speedway, so they race each other on a regular night for 25 laps. Now they're racing for 3 hours and $5,000 with only 7 laps separating them.
I'm trying to find our leader again, Gary Bedell. He's up in turn 2.
Ricky Dietz from Washington creeping through the south end there. He's got 2 flat tires on the left-hand side there. Doesn't look good for Dietz as he tries to find his way to the pit area. Been a rough night for the Washington champion.
Yeah, well, he's endured it. He's still out there racing. We're nearing 36 minutes. 334 laps. They've been winding down some laps here, Scott.
Yeah, the way we were at a point where we didn't know we were going to get to that magic 400 lap mark, but these guys are going to plow through that barrier, I think, well before we get to the finish.
Well, let's size this up here a little bit. Let's look for the 11 at the line. Here he comes off the corner. There he is.
He looks like he's about a straightaway behind Ben Tunney, who got that lap back, and Ben's put about a straightaway on him, but it's almost kind of leveled off here the last few laps there, Don. That gap's been about the same.
This extended green has helped Gary get not be able to be bunched back up on and shorten the space. So.
Yeah, and a point you brought up earlier, Ben's been driving so hard for the last half an hour or so that he's put a hurting on those tires. I'm sure he would love to see a caution flag right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw all 3 of those guys dart in and put some fresh rubber on for the finish. That's if we get a caution flag. We may not.
Yeah, Ben Tunney does not have the edge that we've seen earlier. He has to let off in the corners. You can watch him as you follow him around. There he is right there. Watch. He would scoot it way, way wide earlier and ride it around. And it's hard on this equipment here getting late, too.
Sure, and even the 69 of Norton's pulled a little bit away from Ben. Those two got their laps back, and RJ's car is well more damaged than Ben's is, but looks like it has a little more speed at this point in the event.
Well, I can tell you, RJ Norton is back in sight of getting another lap back. That would be 2 with a half hour to go.
Yeah, pretty impressive for a guy that got hit in the driver's door at 70 miles an hour just about a half an hour ago or so.
If Norton could pick off one more lap, then definitely not count him out in the last 30 minutes. Robbie Loving's held in there tonight very well.
Yeah, he's been hanging around that top 5 here the last 30 or 40 minutes or so. In that top 5 spot, as we mentioned earlier, got that first career World Figure 8 top 5 last year, and he's going to back that up once again here with 30-some minutes to go, running 5th in the event.
Yeah, big-time finish for Robbie Loving. So Gary Bedell, 3:42 complete. I'm trying to watch R.J. Norton Jr. here off turn 4. Look at him right there. So Doug Gregg right there trying to close up a little bit.
You know, as these guys have been caught up in traffic, it looks like Norton and Ben have pulled back away again. They're about a half lap ahead of Bedell, which is the biggest gap that they've gotten here in the last 30 minutes or so. These guys are just laying it all on the line, trying to run as fast as they can, trying to catch Bedell. And Bedell maybe is backing off the pace just a hair, trying to tiptoe through those lap traffic.
I would agree with that. I think Gary Bedell knows that he doesn't want to beat himself here tonight. So yeah, we continue to watch him run through turn number 4. Here's Doug Gregg. So Doug's going to make a run here in a minute to try to get one back.
Yeah, he's only a handful of car lengths behind that number 11 of Bedell. And he's definitely looks like he's got more pace right now, whether his car's better or whether it's Gary just trying to be cautious there in traffic. But Gregg's going to be on that back bumper here momentarily.
Well, for all we know, Doug Gregg, this could have been the pace that he wanted to run all the way, though he's had his share of scrapes as well. This is where he obviously excels throughout his last 20 years or so here. He is there at the end, and he's there tonight.
Sure, Doug has probably the number 1 reputation around here now of being at the finish of these races. And being at the finish puts that prize money right in your back pocket when you come to the checkered flag.
Let's watch and see if Gary Bedell understands he has a couple on Doug.
Doug's not playing around there, Don. I just saw him lay the bumper to Bedell there in turn 3, moved him up out of the way. He cracked him there pretty good, Don, and he said, "Move over, son, I'm going around."
Well, Gary will watch the scoreboard again.
You know, and that's a situation, too, where, you know, maybe he was trying to, as they say in the business, rattle his cage a little bit. He cracked the back end of the 11 pretty good. And we're getting the glasses out on the car of Bedell and checking out the rear end.
Our trained spotters think Gary Bedell may have a problem.
Yeah, if there's something going on in the rear of that car where it's pivoting left and right, it's not letting him put the power down fully as fast as he can. We'll have to check and see. It could be a situation where it may be just a bent wheel or not, but we'll have to keep an eye on that over the next few minutes, because if he has to go to pits for any situation, that light lead is going to go right away.
Well, that right side looks like it has some vibration on it as we eye train around on him right there. Watch, that right side looks like it's bouncing around. It's the left side's been hit too.
Well, and something else to keep an eye on here, Don, to see these lap cars that are, 10, 20, 30, 40 laps behind Bedell that are trying to pass him here in traffic. And if these guys continue to pass him, that's going to really show something's going on with the machine, because Gary's not going to back off that much. That cars 30 and 40 laps down that are passing him.
Still a pretty good smooth line with a car that's been kind of beat on here the last half hour. Not as smooth. Let's see where it is with Ben Tunney now. There's Bedell. And here comes the 5 again.
Well, Don, if there is a situation going on with the rear of that car, Gary has a lot of bad situations that could happen. One, they could break and put him out of the event. 2, it could slow his pace up enough to where these guys take the lead over from him in the next 30 minutes. And the third situation is if you go to the pits just to have it checked out, you're going to lose time by going to the pits. So really, all three situations are not good for Gary.
And here comes Norton trying to get one back, too. We have had a very extended bit of green, and 85 and 29 just bounce off like rubber balls.
Yeah, so definitely the dramatic storyline as we enter the final 30 minutes of this event is keeping an eye on the mechanical grip of Bedell's car there in the rear end. It sort of looks like there's something going on in the right rear, but it could be just damage from a long race, or it could be a part failing back there in the rear end because his pace has slowed up significantly recently with Norton on his tail.
Norton would be down 2 unofficially here now. 2. If he can get around him.
And right behind Norton, that looky there, Don, there's that 5 car of Ben Tunney. Ben Tunney's going to try to pass him and then look up to that leaderboard and see if the lead changes. Bedell will be a viewer of that leaderboard as well if he sees the 5 car flash by.
Look out. That all happened in front of Norton's got a sideways spin there.
Yeah, it looked like he was trying really hard to get around Bedell, but he looked like he put too much power down to those rear tires, spun the car around, and has lost about a straightaway from all that he had gained.
R.J. Norton is a hot driving driver after the contact with Turner that knocked him out of the lead.
You know, at this point, after RJ's been in that wreck, he's not thinking of anything else other than driving as hard as he can till that clock hits 0.
Yeah, well, Gary Bedell's not going to pull over. He's not headed to the pit lane at any cost. He's too far way in this race.
Well, there's Ben Tunney on the back bumper of Bedell. Let's see if he can dispatch him pretty quickly with that situation of the handling going on with the 11 car. Ben's going to pour the pressure on pretty good there. Either something's going on in the back end of that 11 car, maybe a shock bent or something, as the 5 tries to go to the outside.
No doubt about it, but it's still pretty quick, I can tell you that. He will not move over again. Again, probably thinking it's a pass for position, for the lead.
Both those drivers have to climb on the brakes there at the crossover to avoid colliding with the reigning world champion Doug Gregg. Bedell happens to keep that lead, though, through that charge as Ben tries to put some pressure on him and get him into a bad situation.
I got to give Ben Tunney a shout tonight. He's been wild and ragged and edgy, but he's been clean with it. He has been inside, and he's gave Bedell room, and he goes high now trying to make it stick.
And there he goes, getting one of those laps back right there, Don. Another impressive pass for the 5 of Ben Tunney.
Wow. So there we go. Ben Tunney now on the same lap.
You know, we talk about the gauge of the speed of Bedell's car. Ben has now passed him and moved 6 or 8 car lengths ahead. You remember when Doug Gregg put the bumper to the back of Bedell a little bit ago? He's put almost 3/4 of a lap on him, and that hasn't been that long ago. So definitely Bedell's speed is way down. It may be some damage, and it may also be
fatigue
those tires. Yeah,
and fatigue.
Yes, that's correct. He hasn't run a lot of races this year, and those back tires have been on for a long time.
I still like his position, though, with 25 minutes to go. Look out. Had to slow down. Well, we got the parking lot. 8 is off.
Yeah, the second place man currently running in the super stock there, Art Grew, has a right front flat. He tried to get out of the way, and a few guys had to avoid him at the crossover. But our focus with 25 minutes here to go is Ben Tunney has unlapped himself. 2 laps he unlapped himself under green, now in the same lap as Bedell, and pulling away from him by almost a straightaway here in just a handful of laps.
Doug Gregg has been locked in that 3rd spot for a long time tonight. Doug Gregg has shown 1 lap down now as we head under 25.
Well, and you know what's ironic about that 1 lap down there, Don? He got that 1 lap penalty by passing the pace car there about 30 or 40 minutes ago, which really he didn't need to do at the time, but he thought it was crucial in getting himself back towards the front. So if he didn't make that mistake of passing the pace car, we would have 3 cars on the lead lap here with 24 to go. But Greg still may put himself on the lead lap anyways with the speed he's showing.
Norton went flying by. 2 down. Check it. R.J. Norton coming back, so he's 2 down.
Gary Bedell appears to be stuck in the mud here, Don, with about 24 minutes to go. These guys are unlapping themselves profusely on him. Ben Tunney has got himself back on the lead lap. Doug is closing in on getting himself back on the lead lap, and RJ has gotten to the point where he's only a couple behind after a disaster at the crossover. So Bedell looking to have his hands ready to put it on the check here about a half hour ago. Now has got a half dozen cars that are seemingly coming back into play.
But he has been very, very good here, and he's still leading. Doug Gregg right there trying to get down the lap that he wants, that he lost for passing a pace car. Look at him.
You know what's bad too here? Even if we have a caution flag, that might not be good for Bedell either, because while we did,
Bunch
he didn't
him back up.
Well, and two, that with his as off the pace as his car has ran, as we see Doug Gregg becoming the 3rd car on the lead lap. Amazing as we come down to the finish. But Bedell is in a point that his performance is down so much that he would almost have to pit when they went into the pit area, because them guys would just blow his doors off when they went to the green. So if the caution comes out, that may be bad for Bedell as well.
Well, he may be fighting 3 or 4 things, but he's still on the leaderboard every time he flies off turn 2.
You know what else has come to mind to me on this, Don? We've had 2 guys finish on the lead lap a couple of times in this race. We have never, ever had 3 guys finish on the lead lap. So we're in a position to see something historic here tonight with a crash-filled race early on, and now drama and speed here in the late stages of the World Figure 8 Championship.
I'm watching R.J. Norton Jr. again, and he's flying again. Look at him come back around.
Well, and we were talking about it being historic with a 3rd car on the lead lap. Heck, the way Norton's running, we may have 4 cars on the lead lap here in the final 10 or 15 minutes.
Look at him. Norton.
Because if we do have a caution flag, I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of these guys dived into the pit area with some form of strategy or another. 2 tires, 4 tires, staying out. It could be all kinds of things happening if the caution comes out.
Norton had the crack up, but for we know, he may be on better tires too here late.
That's true. That's true. He was in that pit area, and plus the red flag was out during that time to attend to Danny Turner, who he was in the accident with. So Norton's crew had a good 5 minutes to look at that car right there, maybe make adjustments, add fuel, tires, whatever. That's a good point there, Don.
Look at him. Watch his line. R.J. Norton Jr., very, very solid after the crack up with Turner. And that's probably been 100 laps ago or so.
Well, and you know something else I just looked at, Don? Ben Tunney is within a straightaway of passing Bedell for the lead. So he is just pouring on the power, and Bedell is just a sitting duck at this point.
This time around, as we see Gary Bedell, look, he's up in the high groove now. He's trying to stay away from the bumping and grinding.
And if Ben Tunney was able to catch him and take...
Oh, look out. The leader's in trouble, Scott.
There it is. There it is, Don. Pass for the lead. Pass for the lead right there. All it took was an instant. TP goes around, Bedell gets bottled up, and there goes the 5.
On the edge, on the ragged. We've talked about it all night long.
And we've talked about those 2 looking at the leaderboard every time they were around each other. Finally, for Ben Tunney, when he looked at the leaderboard, his number went to the top of the pylon.
And that is bad luck for Gary. He had nowhere to go with that. And now...
Yeah, Ben was running him down speed-wise, but you're right. He still had a gap on him and was running. Just a bad luck thing that guy got turned around right in front of him.
Well, now I don't know if Bedell has the speed or car left really to put the pressure on Ben. Look at him.
No, Gary's only hope at this point, Don, is that the caution does come out and put it back in the hands of his pit crew, because at this point he doesn't have the speed to run with him or even Doug Gregg.
Look at him slow, Scott. He was right to the pit lane.
And our question gets answered right there. Bedell wouldn't pit under green if he had to. So, I mean, he knows he's in a bad spot right there. And whatever the situation was has gotten to the point where he had to go off the track. Let's see if he comes back quickly or if it's a situation where they have to fix something major.
That'll move Norton up more now, and RJ would take over 3rd here momentarily.
Right, and even though we lost the leader, that still leaves 2 cars on the lead lap. So Ben Tunney, the 2009 world champion, Doug Gregg, the 2011 world champions, in second, and soon to be moving to third is the 2010 world champion R.J. Norton Jr. We have an all-star shootout here for the victory here with just not 20 minutes left to go.
Well, Ben Tunney, we've talked about it all night long. By his own admission, threw last year's race away with an error. Now he's fought a lot of bumping and grinding tonight, and he finds himself back in front under 20 minutes. Doug Gregg and Norton behind him.
Right, Norton is about a straightaway behind him from getting another one of those lap back, and Gregg is just barely behind Norton, so Gregg is just over a straightaway behind for battling for the lead. So Doug, who's been down 1 or 2 laps almost this whole race, is suddenly in a spot where he could take the lead and go back to the back for the first time since Bruce Tunney did it in 2004 and 2005.
No question there is Ben Tunney, not as fast as he's been throughout portions of the race, but fast enough to hold off Doug Gregg right now.
Yeah, and both those cars, Gregg and Ben Tunney, have some minor damage on them, but nothing drastically enough to affect the handling or the suspension. A lot of cosmetic bumps and scrapes on the car, but the speed is still there for both those world champions.
Under 18 minutes now, we flashed by and watched Ben Tunney would be gunning for his second title. There he is in car 5. Let's see the interval. There's Doug Gregg, and there's Norton sandwiched in between.
Well, and you know something, Don, that's going to be an interesting situation, too. If we do go caution now, those two are going to be in the lineup so close together. Do they both stay out? Does one of them pit? Do they both pit? You know, there's so many scenarios involved with 17 minutes to go if the caution comes out. So, and then the chance that the caution doesn't even come out is also there, too.
Oh, Gregg and RJ need a caution right now, you know, to bunch it up a little bit more, or like you say, one more splash for tires.
Yeah, definitely things would get interesting with a caution. Not like they're not interesting enough already, because these guys are only about a straightaway or so apart. But if the caution flag flew, who would pull the move first? Who would make the move? Who would respond? You know, how would that go? That's a very good strategy.
And the track is thinned out, so Ben's got a little bit more room than Gary had earlier. He was fighting traffic on every corner for so many laps.
And again, that brings back into play the no radio situation, because if the caution did come out, the crews have a good look on what one or the other driver should do, but the driver doesn't exactly have the good vision of the whole picture, and they're the ones that have to make the decision whether to come in or not.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch Norton. You know, he looks at the scoreboard and sees under 17 minutes now.
You know, and I hate to keep coming back to that pit strategy thing, but, you know, this race pays $20,000 to win. It pays $5,000 for second. So if we do have a caution, one of those decisions could be one that costs you $15,000. So very important, and you're going to be making that decision after being driving for almost 3 hours in the race. You're tired, you're wore out, your decision-making skills might not be the best, so it could be a $15,000 mistake.
Here comes R.J. Norton Jr. Look at him. He's beginning to close the gap. He's in turn 1. Look at him. He comes off the corner, and he is trying to catch 5. Traffic still plays a big part in this race. Norton had a good run going. All of a sudden gets behind a black car. There it is, 12. There he is, Scotty. He's beginning to wind him down a little bit, has him in sight.
Yeah, and he's going to be on scoreboard watch when he gets up close to Ben. He's going to see if it moves him up the serial order when things go his way, if he could get around the 5 one more time.
Look at him right there. If he can get a couple of more runs off some of these corners without blocked traffic, Norton is on the move. And Doug Gregg knows it's closing time too. Look at him.
RJ's car's running so well now that when he enters the 1 hour figure 8 next weekend, he may leave that damage there on the right-hand side and just bolt some tires on the way it's running right now.
RJ is hoping that Ben Tunney would get bogged down. You never know when you go through these corners who's going to let you go, who's going to chop you down. And you see that? He closed it, but now there's 6 cars in front of him, literally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And we talked about the decision-making skills of these guys as they get tired, and it's not just the decision-making skills of Ben and RJ and Doug. It's the guys that are racing around. These guys are tired too. They may make a mistake and bump into one of those cars and cut a tire down. So you really have to tiptoe all the way around this track while going as fast as you can.
400 complete now. 400 complete. 14:40 left.
These guys.
Oh, we got trouble down here in turn 1. It's 29 and 12. And there's the leader flashing through.
Oh, they get going. I thought we were going to have that caution flag to see what was going to happen, but both of those damaged machines got back underway. These guys are almost to the point, if we go the rest of the way, almost driving a full hour under green. That's pretty incredible in this World Figure 8 Championship.
Or start seeing guys run out of fuel one way or another.
That could be a possibility because, you know, usually 250 to 300 laps are the kind of fuel mileage these guys get, and they've been running for quite a while here.
There he is, Norton trying to close it up to where he's only got nobody. Now Teepee will let him go, so he has closed it. There he goes.
The advantage that Ben has right now is Ben has got some open area around him, but you know in this race that doesn't last for long, so he needs to take advantage of it while he's got it.
Yeah, here comes Norton. Doug Gregg's trying to hang on to RJ visually, and he's got some back markers to deal with as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's hard for people to understand that are watching this how these guys could drive for a full hour at full speed and make those decisions. I mean, that's just so hard to do. And for 3 or 4 guys to do it at the same time is incredible. And as we mentioned that, I'm thinking about Bedell. We've not seen him come back at all after that situation. So whatever the rear end deal was definitely fatal for the 11 machine.
Oh, look out. We got a big hit up in turn number 4.
Chad Sizemore smokes the fence down there in 4. Let's see if he's out of the way. He gets the car moving once again, so there's that caution avoided one more time. Ben Tunney wipes sweat from his brow when he sees the 0 moving there once again.
Wow, that was a big hit.
Sizemore hit that fence here a couple of weeks back with that car and did some damage to it. I hope it doesn't put it in the same spot again. Bad luck for Chad Sizemore.
Well, that would be unwise to start that back up. He come off that corner full throttle, and wow, he's leaking fluid, it looks like.
But it does look like he's trying to move out of the way to be sportsmanlike to his competitors. He knows these guys are battling it to the end, and there's only 12 minutes remaining.
That was a big hit. Look at that, Scott. Radiator. Under 12 minutes. There's Ben Tunney. Norton, well, he had closed a little bit closer than that, and Chad Sizemore limps to cover.
Looks like, you know, maybe if they stay green, a little less than 40 laps to go. So not many laps left on the board for these guys to make something happen. Ben's in the catbird seat right now. Doug Gregg is in second spot on the lead lap, but he's got a distance to make up, and RJ is trying to force the situation into a spot where Ben makes a mistake and puts himself back into contention. So a lot of things that can still happen here in these final 11 minutes.
Yeah, he's got some clear racetrack again. Nearing the 11-minute mark. A long run of green flag time here tonight, Scott.
Ben Tunney looks to add some history to his record books. He was the youngest driver to ever win the World Figure 8 Championship in 2009, and he's the only son to match their father as being world champion. He's going to move up the list if he could put another one in the record book and become a 2-time winner. That's a very short list here for World Figure 8 champions.
R.J. Norton Jr. is not quite as quick as he was earlier. It's driving bent and broke, but he's still trying to get to the checker. Nearing 10 minutes.
Right now, the quick update with 10 minutes to go here, Ben Tunney is your leader. Doug Gregg is second on the same lap. Norton, as we mentioned before, is 2 laps behind there in third. And coming in fourth right now is the Michigander, Robbie Loving, who's 11 laps off the pace. And the man who's trying to keep up with his dad there, R.J. Norton III, is running fifth. So it could be a career best and 2 top 5s for the Norton team.
Let's find Ben Tunney. There he is. So he stretched it out. Norton was trying to close 20 laps or so ago. Well, if something would happen to Ben Tunney at this point in time, Scott, Doug Gregg would have number 3.
That's right, because any sort of mishap, Ben getting spun out, you know, as little as that would be enough for Doug to take up that pace and be right there on him. So 2 guys on the lead laps only happened 3 times here in the 36-year history. So we're at rare air right here. And if the caution did come out here with the last few laps, we could have a shootout situation.
9 minutes. So that's what, 30 laps potentially left in this race.
At 3 laps a minute, you know, we're somewhere in the 20 to close to 30 lap range, depending on how the traffic lies out. So not a lot of time there, but enough time to get into trouble.
Well, Ben Tunney had it last year. Can he hang on to it this year?
Last year, he was in a much easier spot with a 5-lap lead and got himself in trouble. This time, he's in a head-to-head battle with Doug Gregg.
Garrigus almost brought out that caution right there. That was a near miss there. Fatigue has got to be at its highest right now.
Oh, right there. Mistake sends Nigel Peters into the air.
Look out.
Look, the 31 of Bobby Whitaker got turned around there, and when he got straightened back up, he clipped the left rear corner of Nigel's car. It flew into the air, but you know what? Amazingly, after all this time, these guys get the cars fired back up, going again.
Now let's see if that helped or hurt Norton. There he is. He's still 100 yards or so out.
Well, Norton at this point, the big problem is he's 2 laps behind. That time is almost pretty much run out on him. He needs both of those guys to fall out of the event here or have trouble at the same time. Really, the concentration is on those 2 cars.
He's spinning as I'm talking. So RJ is running valiantly here tonight, but
and what RJ doesn't know is he's got a 9-lap gap on 4th place. So you know he's in a spot where if he knew that, he would probably take it a little easier here the last few minutes. But RJ's going to drive it all the way to the finish.
Down to 7 minutes. Well, if Doug Gregg's got anything in his tank, anything up his sleeve, he better pull it out.
Yeah, this would be the point in time where Doug would want to throw the water bottle out for the old caution for debris. But, you know, this is figure 8 racing. Debris doesn't really come into play unless it's something like a bumper or a battery, a tire, or some sort of big object. This isn't a caution for a water bottle situation.
Yeah, you see Ben Tunney right there. He's closing up on Norton more than anything now.
The gap with him and Gregg is approximately a half a lap at this point with 6.5 minutes remaining. They're fairly close there at the crossover. Norton's hopes would be they would be really close at the crossover and actually make contact, but, you know, that may or may not happen here. But figure 8 racing, you never know.
427 for Ben Tunney this time in. .428. Well, we're under 6 minutes, Scott. That's about 18 laps.
Yeah, and at this point right here, luck and the caution flag are the 2 factors that could play into this. Shootout to the finish between 2 world figure 8 champions who see each other at the crossover. Doug had a look at Ben's driver's door right there, just missing it by feet as these 2 battle to the end. Let's see how close they are this time at the crossover. Just a few feet separate the 2 leaders at the intersection.
Really good stuff here, but it's been Ben Tunney here the last half hour trying to seal it up. Well, Ben doesn't want any part of crossover action right there as he lays back and picks a spot under 5 minutes. Well, we've seen him a lot faster than that pace for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? He's in that situation. He doesn't know what lap Doug Gregg is on, but he does know that Doug's in second, and he's got a good look at him at the crossover here the last 4 or 5 laps, so he at least knows he has a half a lap lead. As long as he keeps an eye on that 33 car at the crossover, he's going to put himself in a position to win.
RJ3 still had a good run tonight. He's been out there and been able to, he's in the top 10 tonight.
Well, actually, Don, he slipped into the top 5 here recently, quite a few laps down, but you know what? 5th place is a pretty darn good payday and a great run, and would be amazing a father and son to finish in the top 5 in the same event.
Sure would. Under 4 minutes this time in for Ben Tunney. Well, you know, now with about 15 laps or less, Ben Tunney is thinking of last year, hey, I had it. I wanted another one. He's got it right in his hands right now. 3:47 left.
You know, and we're going to get to a point here not too long from now to where the caution flag wouldn't even help Doug Gregg. If we get down to a minute or so, if we had the caution,
run out.
Right, it would run out under caution. So Doug is his opportunities are starting to wane down here as we go late. He needs Ben to catch a little bit of a bad luck or some sort of a breakage. As we see, it looks like the 8 car of Art Grew has some sort of a mechanical expiration there on the 8 machine.
Yeah. I give Art, he's had I give him A for confidence tonight or no fear. He's been out there all night long.
That's right, and he comes up here every year battling for that Super Stock Award, and he finishes in the top 3 in the Super Stocks about every year. He's just not had that little bit of piece of luck to get him that $5,000, unfortunately, but one heck of a competitor there from the Louisville area.
2 minutes, 50 seconds. Ben Tunney, Doug Gregg, Norton. Ben Tunney's race to lose here tonight or to win his second World Figure 8 Championship title.
And with Grew pulling into the infield, Don, there, that's really makes the chances good of Harold Murphy picking up this $5,000 in his first ever trip to the Indianapolis Speedrome.
Sure. Ben Tunney's close to picking up $20,000 here now within 2.5 minutes. 438 laps this time in.
You know, 2003 world champion Bill Tunney Jr. had 3 bullets in that gun coming in. Bad luck for Austin Tunney early. Jesse had some bad luck not too long after that. Ben got caught up in a scrape, but he survived it, and now he's leading this race with just 2 minutes left to go, trying to pick up that $20,000 for that team.
Sure it is. It's under 2 minutes now. Under 2 minutes. Ben Tunney on his way. Well, he's won last year, had a hard problem, gave it away, and tonight he's on his way, Scott. He's under 2 minutes. 2 minutes now.
I'm sure he'll take that pattern over the next 10 years if he could, winning every other year. But he's going to try to seal the deal here tonight with 90 seconds left to go. 90 seconds in the books here as we close into the final laps of the World Championship.
And again, no help with cautions. As crazy as this race can be, it's been green here, 30, 40 minutes in a row.
I think it's pretty close to an hour, Don. You know, that first hour was caution fest, red flags, all kinds of stuff. And this last hour has been a sprint as we near down to the 1 minute mark.
Sure. Ben Tunney at the line.
And a big
4:42.
A big reminder with 2 cars on the lead lap, this race, when the clock goes 0, they still have to complete that final lap. So even with the clock 0, if Ben were to stall on that final lap, he could still lose it even though the clock's at 0.
Well, let's bring him home. 50 seconds and counting. Norton cannot reel him in the last 10 minutes. Neither can Doug Gregg. The countdown begins. Ben Tunney's headed towards his second ever World Figure 8 Championship. He saw his cousin lead early tonight and out. That'd be Mark Tunney, Jesse, and Austin. No luck here tonight, but their brother is headed towards another big payday and a World Figure 8 crown here tonight. Look at him. No need to press it here through the corner one more time. Follow him in. 15 seconds. Ben Tunney's going to do it. Nothing going to stop him here tonight. He going to shut it down and push it home. 1 to go. Looking back at it. All the fans looking down. There is the clock expiring. Ben Tunney has to get to the line. But when he gets there, he's going to have his second crown and a check for $20,000. One more time to the line. He knows it. It goes wide. He goes into the fishtail. That's a celebration for Bill Tunney Jr.'s son, Ben Tunney, the 2012 World Figure 8 champ. We'll talk to him in just a moment. Ben Tunney's won his second World Figure 8 title here at Indianapolis. Jerry. Well, it was a hard-fought battle, but Ben Tunney has a second World Figure 8 title. Jerry Gully to the gate. Jerry Gully. Jerry Gully to the gate, please. Jerry Gully. Well, Ben Tunney's took his number 5 down here to the winner's circle down Walker with Kevin O'Neill all night long, all weekend long. It was another great race tonight. A good battle with R.J. Norton, Gary Bedell, Doug Gregg. Ben Tunney was able to outlast all the problems throughout the night, and he's put his name in a record book here for the second time in 2012. A hard-fought drive. There was some valiant efforts here tonight. Gary Bedell with a great run. R.J. Norton Jr. comes back from that crash, and Doug Gregg was right there. We thank everybody for coming to Indianapolis for the great race tonight. It's all on our website at speedrome.com. Follow the results as Ben Tunney is about ready to come and tell us how it all unfolded from his driver's seat here. His mom already has the important thing, a check for $20,000 already in her hand here tonight. Oh, Mrs. Tunney, you've got another one.
Yes, it's awesome.
I know you've got the most important thing down here.
Yes, I'm going to go shopping. No.
Well, Mark Tunney's down here, and too. Mark, come on in, and we'll talk to you real quick for a second. Not the results you wanted tonight, but a quick word from you.
There's not much to say, really. I'm more than happy for Ben and his family and crew. I mean, they deserve it. Ben worked so hard, and I'm so happy for him. Driver error on my part, just like every 3 hour I've ever raced, I screw up and do the wrong things, and I got to thank everybody that got me where I was for a fast race car, and congratulations to Ben.
All right. Ben, come on in. Ben Tunney's got his hands on this second check here tonight. Well, Ben, he's got him a water. He's catching his breath. If you're out of breath, you're one of the younger guys around here. I don't know how everybody else is feeling. Tell us how it all played out. 3 hours again. It was hard-fought stuff. All the things you had to dodge to get to this spot. Congratulations from the Speedrome, from the World Figure 8 Championship area in Indianapolis, Indiana. Tell us about your race.
Hard fought is like describing it with the less words as possible. Man, I am so tired. That was the hardest race I think I ever drove. It just never let up, man. You run a 3 hour, you think you make it to halfway, it's going to settle down, and you start cruising. Like, I think I got into more stuff in the second half than I did the first half. It just never let up. You had to always keep your eyes open and on the ball. You're trying to watch the leaderboard, watch who's falling out. You don't know how many laps are down. You're trying to figure that out. You don't know how hard you ought to race, if you should push it or lay back and save your tires. I mean, I don't even know what all went through my mind. It was so long. I just remember seeing Bedell out front for so long. I finally got up there and took my time and was running up front, and then I got a flat tire on that red flag. I don't know what caused it. They think it's a little puncture, but it's just my luck. It would come out right on the red, and you're not allowed to pit on a red right now, so I had to wait till the yellow came out. Made a yellow flag pit stop and lost a lap or so. Then at that point, I was told I was on the lead lap. I passed Bedell one time, and the leaderboard never changed. So then I was like, uh-oh, I got to do this again. I had to run around, and luckily for me, he was having a lot of issues. His rear end was hopping all over the place. These tires did not hold up at all. They fell off after about 50 laps, and they were done. Felt like you were on flat tires. So you just had to feather it like you're on ice. You couldn't drive it into corners. You couldn't shoot through the crossover. Nothing.
Ben, you were trying to run Gary down for a long time there. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure he knew he had a lap or two in hand on you. We talked about that the last hour. Did you think he could pass him?
At first, I didn't know. I really didn't see him. There's so many cars out in front of me. Then I slowly started seeing I was catching him. Then after I caught him, I was pretty sure I could pass him, but I wasn't sure how soon I needed to. I didn't know if I should ride behind him and pass him for the lead, or if I was passing him to get one lap back, or if I was 3 laps down or what. So finally I got by him. I looked at the leaderboard. It didn't change, and I knew I had to keep driving hard, but I knew I was close, so I had to keep the wheels on it. I couldn't afford another pit stop.
It's been a year ago. You had it go away from you. The last 15, 20 laps were you in front. Was it running through your mind?
Oh, it definitely was. I had one real close call with Mark Harmon, stopped and hit somebody right in front of me and sheared the whole door off. Was running in traffic with RJ. We were cutting and weaving between cars, and I came down, and he was already there, bumped the wheels real hard and knocked the toe out. Steve Frost had to slam the brakes in front of me and wiped out his back end real hard. That hurt. Knocked my shield off and rattled my head a little bit. Had to shake it off and try to focus and try not to let the exhaustion get to you. Try not to let up even though you're leading. You want to just lay over and let everybody pass you and stay away from everyone, but you got to somewhat keep charging.
Bill Cohen's down here. Billy, it's been a great race, a great weekend here. 2012, we know this guy here. You got a word for him?
He's the greatest. What can I say?
He was fast tonight, wasn't he?
This is a world champion right here.
World champion number 2, and it's a great weekend here for us in Indianapolis here. Let's make it official. Here's the check. Where's the trophy? Let's bring the trophy in right here for the photo ops, the $20,000 here. Ben's going to be buying all the root beers and cheeseburgers here tomorrow. Here's your trophy. On behalf of the Speedrome here and the Cohen family all these years, I know your grandpa would be happy. Your dad's down here. Here it is, the trophy, the check for $20,000 right here, Ben. Your mom said she's going shopping with it. Some final thoughts here to all these throng of fans.
Yeah, I really loved all these fans tonight. I love racing in front of a packed house like this. They were all standing on their feet the whole time and cheering. And but first, I mean, I have to really thank all these people out here with me tonight. They all work so hard and support me so much. all my family and their hard-working crew back there. When you got 3 cars on one team like us, it doesn't matter how much help you get. It's hard. It's just